You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, the end is near.
Well, we got another rockin' awesome Saturday night up here in New England. Things are really moving in the right direction, folks. So we're looking forward to it, and we're really hoping that all good things are going to happen for all of us people who've left the Watchtower. We got a lot we're going to be talking about tonight, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Well, there we have it. Wow, it's so good to be back here with you guys. It's always the most exciting night of the week for me. This is when I get to have all my good friends come and visit me right here at the Six Screens Telenetwork. And we are so happy that you're on with us tonight. Now, let me tell you, I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world. And we've been doing this program for 16 years. It'll be 17 years. In January 26th, as a matter of fact, it'll be 17 years. We have never missed a Saturday night. We are here because you are here. And why are you here? What's the fetish? What is the connection with getting information about the Watchtower? You would think that most of us would be over it by now. You'd think we'd be saying, well, enough is enough. We've had it. Forget about it. I'm moving on. Many do, but some of us are kind of stuck. But I don't know if I really want to make it sound like it's a badly stuck situation. We're all finding solace. We're all finding camaraderie. We're all finding a connection with the people that are calling in here and being part of our Six Screens programs. So anyways, I just wanted to bring up tonight that I am, as I say every Saturday night, I am elated. Things are really, I get emails all week long. I was telling Susan today, I'm still not done answering all of the emails I've been getting. And the emails that I've been getting are very, very, very significant as far as letting me know what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. This is like a news clearinghouse. And I want to thank everyone who's sending me news articles. All day long, all night long, from all over the world, I'm getting ding, 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 ding on my phone. And it's like a news clearinghouse here on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. So it's very, very encouraging. Now, some of these news articles I don't put up. They may be old, but I thank everyone for sending them to me. I try to stay up with the latest that's going right until the news, a half hour before we go on live news. I want to make sure we got all the bases covered. So thank you all for sending stuff in, but I'll tell you what's happening. I've been getting this week, so many people are giving me information concerning declining activity in the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Halls, in the congregations. Less people are commenting. Only a few are commenting. There is less attendance at the meetings, as we say. And even service attendance, that is tanking. Nobody wants to go out and service. Would you? I mean, after 2 years of being locked up with COVID, would you want to go out and service? I think the answer to that is no, but there is a large amount of publishers that have just kind of vanished. They've disappeared into thin air. The witnesses, the people writing into me are saying, where'd they go? A lot of these people are still PMOs, but they're wondering, where is everybody going? They don't see them on Zoom. They don't see them in person at the Kingdom Hall, and they don't see them anywhere. And they're wondering, where'd they all go? Well, wouldn't you be wondering where they all went to if you were going back to the Kingdom Hall? And what these people are telling me, every single person who's giving me this information says, Rick, there's no enthusiasm. There's just bland. No, nobody's excited. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they're tired. They're lost. They have no zeal. That's exactly that. I'm getting the same comments from people over and over again. And even a Watchtower reader who reads the Watchtower, he's a PMO, but he actually gave me some information I found very fascinating. He says when he's reading the Watchtower in the meeting, he's watching the dull, expressionless faces in the audience. He says it's sad. It's sad looking out. Imagine you're on the stage, you're reading the Watchtower, and you're looking out at the people. No enthusiasm. The audience is expressionless. Yeah. But the strangest thing, and this I really had to digest because I started getting a weak stomach over this. Also, people are telling me, everything's tanking in the congregations. But the strangest thing is there's new ones coming on Zoom. You say, what is that all about? That's discouraging to me. Well, who are these new people that are showing up on Zoom? Well, hopefully the pandemic didn't unlock some new segment of society that were just dying to find a cult. I mean, I don't think that happened. But what are these new ones doing coming on Zoom? That's quite fascinating. But they're not going to be there long. Friends, this cult is dying. This cult is done. Take it off the grill. It's cooked. There's the same old dribble each week. The spiritual food is being continually shoved in front of everyone. They're just tiring. And imagine the spiritual food today. It's not even worth eating. They don't study anymore. There's nothing, nobody really studies and goes to the meeting with, I got the answers to all the questions. There's nothing anymore that's remotely mentally stimulating or interesting. It's just more about trust the faithful and discreet slave. Be ready to obey and support the preaching work with your valuable things. Oh, yes, your time, your money, your gas, and everything else you can give the Watchtower. They'll take it. They'll take your jewelry. They'll take your stocks. They'll take your insurance policy. They'll even take your rewards from your credit cards. That's how bad these guys are lately. But I'll tell you what, these new people, I was concerned. Who are these people, like I say, listening in on Zoom? Now, the people in the congregation don't even know who they are. But, evidently some of these, emotional videos the Watchtower is putting out, maybe it's capturing some people. These people are getting online, they're seeing beautiful pictures and videos, the promise of the paradise. So they're getting lured in. So they're coming into Zoom. They're not going to the actual Kingdom Hall itself, but they're coming in on Zoom. So that is weird. But I'm going to tell you, they're not going to be there long once they find out what they have to do to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. First of all, they're going to have to commit a good full year of study before they can even become a witness. And then, of course, they're going to have to get baptized. And then, of course, they're going to have to go under the pressure of coming to all the meetings. And they're going to have the pressure of going door to door. Would you stay in? Come on. With everything that's available to them on the internet? Absolutely, you would not do it. So anyways, I wanted to bring that up tonight. And that's very, very fascinating to me that we're going to see a real big decline. If you haven't seen it yet, it's coming. It really, really, really is coming. So keep an eye open for that. I'm just going to check a couple of the platforms. We're on 12 different platforms here tonight. I just want to make sure that the sound is up and running, which it is. So that's good. We have to make a check every once in a while because we have to keep everything going smooth because we have such a huge audience as of late. All right. So, these new ones listening in on Zoom, they're going to lose their zeal very quick, and they'll be disappearing from the Zoom meetings as well. Well, I want to mention that. And then the other thing. Now, when's the last time when you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses that you actually heard of a service meeting at the Kingdom Hall canceled? Well, I can remember some being canceled because of weather-related problems, or maybe there was no power, or maybe there was a snowstorm. But all of a sudden, we're starting to see service being canceled at the Kingdom Halls. Now, what is that all about? I got information coming into me this week about this. So there were actually service groups that are being canceled. Now, you remember on the first Saturday of every month, at least in the congregation I went to, we would all meet at the congregation right at the Kingdom Hall, and we would all get ready for the field ministry and hype everybody up. Sometimes it'd be 30, 40, 50 people there. Oh, those days are gone. Those days are gone. Reports coming in here that they're still doing that first Saturday of the month deal, trying to get witnesses out in service. But they're all saying there's a big, major decline. Now, just to give you an idea, one person gave me some information I found very fascinating. They said pre-COVID numbers, meeting for field service, if you can imagine, on the first Saturday of the month was 75, and now it's now they're about 60. Now that's not a big drop. 15, I can go with that. But what one person gave information concerning that they go to a Kingdom Hall where there's two congregations, and that happened in my situation too. I would go to a congregation. There was two meetings there. We had Tewksbury and Wilmington. So the first Saturday of every month, we would alternate. We'd meet at 9, and then the next week they'd meet at 9:30 for the other congregation, then alternate it. So anyways, they used to have, 30, 40 prior to, well, they had more than that. Yeah, typically you get 30 or 40 out in service with each congregation. And we used to get those kind of numbers too. I'm talking a few years back. So that would have been back, 2004, 2005. So we had two congregations, and on a Saturday, you could get as many as 30, 40 people meeting. But now what's happening is the two congregations combined are having a hard time coming up with 30 or 40. So we see that things are really tanking fast in the Watchtower. People are losing it. They don't want to be Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. And then also the other thing that's floating around, that they come up with a new tactic, a new strategic tactic for getting people to show up for the meetings. Now what the elders are doing on Saturday morning, they're texting. Now, going back 10, 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have text. So the elders are text messaging the publishers. Saturday morning, let's get rolling. Make sure you're at the Kingdom Hall. We have a very special announcement to be made. So what are you going to do? You wake up 7 o'clock in the morning, elder texts you, come on, Rick, you're coming down to the meeting today. We have a special announcement we want you to hear. So you drag your feet, you go down for the special announcement. And I don't know how you guys felt, but, whenever the Watchtower would say we're going to have a special announcement, I used to think, I better be there. Excuse me, French. I better be there to hear that announcement, because this is Jehovah's way of divulging something terribly important. Maybe it's about Armageddon, or maybe it's something that's really happening to our congregation. So I better be there. And if you missed it, you would have felt like you missed crucial information, which could even lead to your death. Jehovah wants you to hear the announcement. But, after a few years, I came to understand that there wasn't anything special about these announcements. Just because you label it special announcement doesn't mean it really is. So, you could find it out. Even if you miss the announcement, they would announce it at the next district convention or a special talk. So you'd find out. But they do this. This is what cults do. They got to keep you, so close. Don't miss a meeting. Make sure you're here. And then there was another tactic too. I mean, the Watchtower they got a bunch of tricks in their bag. I'll tell you that right now. And another thing they used to do to get you to the book study, some of you may not remember, but I remember this. This would have been back in the 80s specifically. So what they would do in order to get you to the book study, the study conductor would withhold your monthly kingdom ministry. That little pamphlet that's for the witnesses, like a little newspaper. Well, they would hold that back. That was our kingdom ministry, we called it. And if you weren't regular in service, you wouldn't get it. That's where they were giving it out. So they're trying to get people to get out in service. You had to actually be active to get a KM. And if you didn't have a KM, people would look at you like, what's the matter with him? Geez, he must be a weak witness. Geez, any way that the Watchtower can make you feel 2 feet high, they're going to take advantage of it. And then even another tactic they used to do, and I remember when I was in Florida, they did this. They would lock the doors right when the meeting started. Did they ever do that in your congregation? Okay, 7:00, going to start the meeting. Now lock the doors. And then, they were trying to get people to show up on time. And then if they didn't, you'd hear somebody knocking on the door. Oh, that's weak brother and sister Farron. Boy, they're late for the meeting again. Jeez, any way to make you feel like useless. That's exactly what this cult does to people. So, then I'm also getting information pouring in here to the 6 screens. And like I say, I get excited about this. All day long, I'm reading stuff about Jehovah's Witnesses, but it's not always good. It's always negative, cynical, critical news in the Watchtower. But, here's what I'm seeing that people have been writing me, as they say this week. And another thing they're noticing is in the congregations, most of the people, in fact, they're saying at least half of the members of the congregation are over 60 years old. Now, I would say that, they're baby boomers, right? I mean, 60-year-old baby boomers, they're in my category. I'm older than that. I'm 74. But so I'm in that group, though. So it's all older ones that are going to the Kingdom Hall. And I got news for the witnesses, and they know it. There's been studies done on Pew Research. The Gen Z generation. Well, that's the generation of today. These are the young ones in the congregation. And it isn't growing. It's going to permanently change the dynamics of the Watchtower. These guys, the Gen Z, they're internet savvy. And I have to tell you, these are people 18 to 24 years old. They were born in 1998 through 2004. So these are what you call the Gen Z generation. And I don't want to call them all a complete and utter disaster. I'm not going to do that because I know there's plenty of good Gen Zs. I know there is. But boy, there's many of them that are complete, utter disaster. Now, I'm not even talking about the morality of this young generation. This is a group, like I say, 18 to 24 years old. I'm talking about their mental state. Let's talk about the Gen Z's mental state. As a matter of fact, my wife did some research this week for me, Susan, and she gave me some excellent information here. And it's concerning the Gen Z information and questions about their frame of mind. Psychiatrists are beginning to wonder about the Gen Z people. Now, friends, I'm not making a blanket statement. If you're a Gen Z listening in on here, it may not be you. but you do know some Gen Zers that do have some serious issues. Now, see what is happening. These Gen Zers, they're not, these young ones, they're not going to connect with the Watchtower. Let's face it. That fire is sparked by the direct threats to their freedom. The Gen Zers have a direct threat to their freedom in the Watchtower. Yeah, this is how Gen Zers are feeling. They're not going to go along like all of us and the baby boomer generation went along with it. Watchtower doesn't speak the Gen Zers language. Gen Zers, they're all over the social media. Well, you see them mostly in the ex-witness world. You want to talk and meet a lot of Gen Zers, get on the forum Reddit. That ex-witness forum Reddit has a ton of Gen Zers, and you can see where their mind is. Their mind, many of them use such vulgar language. F this, F Jehovah, all of this. And it's terrible, but I can tell who the Gen Zers are. These young ones are using the F-bomb they just use a normal word. There's nowhere for the Gen Z to go in the organization but down. And the organization is going to go down too because they're not going to get these young ones. But listen to this. I'm not going to spend all my time here tonight on it. We'll probably talk about it a little later on our next program. But I just wanted to give you the mental state. What I'm trying to give you here is an overview. I'm trying to, in any endeavor, if you're a business, for example, and I know right now, even in this country, economists are worried about people not being born. There's not as many babies being born. So what does that mean? It means there's no consumers in the pipeline. 20 years from now, there would have been a lot more people, but nobody's having the babies like they used to. So our economy could suffer 20 years from now. Well, the Watchtower is already suffering. The Gen Z aren't buying this. And so that's why I'm bringing this up, because that's the future. The future of the Watchtower would always be with new ones coming in, and young ones would really propel and motivate others to join. That's not happening. Now, let me tell you, according to a health study here of the mental state of the Gen Zers, 78% of Gen Zers are battling depression. 57% take regular medication. These are young people, friends. Over 50% of them are on regular medication. 42% have been diagnosed with mental health conditions. 39% are seeing a therapist at least 1 week or more, once a week or more. 31% rate their mental health as bad. These are absolutely alarming numbers. Does the Watchtower read these statistics? Does the Watchtower know it? You bet they do. Friends, depression, first of all, is no joke. I'm not making fun of a person's depression, but it can actually destroy a person's life, as we all know. And if left untreated, people will even take their own lives to end the misery. And don't we hear that a lot? And I've been reading a lot lately about people attempting suicide, and even some committing suicide in the Jehovah's Witness organization because of the pressure that's being put on them. So many suicides lately. So that's just a little bit of tidbits on the Gen Zers. I got more, but we won't go that deep. Maybe in the next program coming up, we'll go a little deeper, because we're going to talk about some of these things that also would be pertinent to the generations we're living in. Friends, I just have to say that there's so many Jehovah's Witnesses right now, they are tired and they are bored. And older people are not going to be able to carry this outdated theology into the new millennium. It's not going to happen. There's not enough older ones to carry this on. The older ones themselves will get tired of the ever-growing technology to share this message. This is this is new technology for the baby boomers. These guys, many of them could not even get on a computer really, and they had to be taught how to use their little tablets in the meeting. They're not ready for it. If you go back to our day, now I don't want to sound like a dinosaur here, and I don't want to sound like, oh, our days were the best days. I'm not saying that, but I would say they were the best days for the Watchtower. They had committed people with the baby boomer generation. We were committed. We were trained. We were taught how to defend ourselves, how to make a defense for the Jehovah's Witness. We were basically all apologists for the Jehovah's Witnesses. And now what they're trying to do with the baby boomers, here, take this cart and just wheel it out and go in front of the Fenway Park and just stand there all day. And just if someone comes up, you can get them on jw.org. No, we did more than that, didn't we? I remember, boy, getting into long biblical discussions. And most of us had remember the reasoning book? Oh, you remember the reasoning book. We had that attached to our Bible. Many of us did. So, boy, we could thumb right there. And we were on the ball. We were the Navy SEALs out there preaching for the Jehovah's Witnesses. We did a good job. In fact, probably too good. I'm not proud that I brought 6 people in the organization. I'm not proud about that. Many brought more in. I met a man once that brought 82 people into the organization. He came out and he broke down in tears. He says, oh, Rick, he says, I'm so sorry. He says, it bothers me. He said, I brought 82 people into this cult. Yeah, so the witnesses, the older ones, that is, they're not going to put up with standing next to a cart. Friends, the ride is over. The game is over for the Watchtower. And unlike 1975, they're not going to bounce back and survive. They're done. They're cooked. Stick a fork in them, as we say. We have so many bad critical news items that are coming out post-pandemic CSA, child sex abuse cases. Geez, they keep coming out one after another. So I'm just seeing here that it's only a matter of time and the attendance is going to be so low at the Kingdom Halls, it's going to justify getting rid of the Kingdom Hall. Well, hasn't this already been happening? Hello, anyone hearing me? This has been happening right along, but the Watchtower has been covering it up. Yes, there's going to be no need for a Kingdom Hall. If you only have 25, 30, 40 people showing up, that's a waste of money. So when the circuit overseer comes around, he's going to order that Kingdom Hall be sold, put it on the market. And then, publishers, they're having trouble. Is it already going to meetings? They're traveling too far because they compressed all of these different Kingdom Halls. People are traveling further just to get there. And, eventually Zoom will die out too. So it's already dying out. People can disappear on Zoom. How many times have we talked about that on JW World News? So to me, it's very exciting. And I believe you think it's exciting too, to see the big decline. Well, let's call it that. Let's call it the big decline. And it's happening in real time. And we are seeing such a large amount of instability in the Jehovah's Witness organization. What do you think of that? I'm happy over all of this. We're getting points on the scoreboard, as I always say. So there we go. Well, who'd like to speak up? Would someone like to come in and talk to us tonight? We have open line.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, with the internet and everything, these young people, they're not going to buy into that crap. They can research whatever they want, and it just ain't going to happen. They can't go to they go to the Kingdom Hall and they listen to that stuff, and they go home and get on their computer or their smartphone, and they can research them, all their lies in the past and what have you. So,
well, you're absolutely right, Jeff.
Sorry, Rick.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, this is Chewy.
Yes, Joey.
This technology thing's pretty cool. I about 2 weeks ago when that thing came out up there in Pennsylvania, that those 4 dudes that came out. I got that on Google Alerts, right?
Right.
And anyway, and the next day it showed up on Google Alerts also. And I just had just the clip, no commentary to it, no nothing, just the clip. And that's the same time as that Robert Hendrickson or whatever his name is got up there on Colorado and did that puff ad, that sponsored ad,
Right.
on up in Colorado.
Yep.
Well, I took a screenshot on my iPad of the 2 hosts that were on there. I got their names. I put their names in Facebook, and guess what? They had a messenger, Facebook Messenger that was connected to the station that had their name on it. Boom! Sent them both videos of what happened in Pennsylvania. That YouTube video that was on there. Then I also got a hold of contacted the Attorney General, the one up here in Pennsylvania, that's Shapiro, and I sent him a Lloyd Evans video on the Shepherd of Flock book and how they do the blue envelope and how it's connected to the branch overseer manual. So I love this technology. I mean, they put out a puff ad, I'm right back behind them.
Well,
I'm right back behind them, Googling that name and sending them that deal on Pennsylvania.
Well, thank you for doing that, Chewy. Thank you for doing that. And I'll tell you, I mean, the officials of the land, they're getting a mouthful of information from people showing how evil the Watchtower is. Thank you, Chewy. Thank you. Go ahead.
What I'm seeing, Rick,
Yep.
I'm seeing 40-year-olds that have wonderful families. Some of the young veterans, men and women, have stable families. They're raising good kids. People I know that are school teachers in their 40s, they're doing great. But the generation beneath them, things that would have got a baby boomer in trouble or even would have been wild for a 40-year-old, this new group, they don't want to date a girl. They don't want to date each other. They don't want to go to a social event. This new group that is plugged in from a very young age has real serious social problems. It's different because the delinquency before was, maybe premarital sex or, blowing dope at the beach or too much beer. This new group is depressed and insular and not socializing with each other.
Bingo. You nailed it. I'm going to go more into that later on because this article that my wife sent me, I can't believe it. And like I said, not all. I know some really good Gen Z kids, but there's a lot that really have flipped out. There's no doubt. Yeah. Well, thank you.
They've made strides in the science classes and things for these kids so they can face the future, but there's real social problems.
Yeah, I'm with you. Go ahead. You're on with us.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Oh, all right. It's Chewy again. Along the kind of the same line, I was watching a YouTube video. It was on a doctor, and he wasn't talking about the mental thing. He was talking about the diet thing. And he was saying that some of the kids out there, 7, 8, 9 years old, they're taking blood pressure medicine.
Yes.
They're 7 or 8, 9 years old. He said some kids now that are in their teens, they're already pre-diabetic. Pre-diabetic. He said by 2030, he said 30% of the United States is either going to be diabetic or pre-diabetic. So
Unbelievable. No, it's a serious problem. It's a serious problem. And the Watchtower knows they got a problem too. But it's not just Watchtower. The whole system is concerned about this. Thank you, Chewy. Thank you very much. All right. I mean, boy.
Hello, Rick.
Yes. Yeah. Hello, Constance.
Hi, dear. How you doing today, Rick?
Good.
Good. Give my love to Susan, honey. I was just going to say, technology has its place in society. It really started up in the 80s when, I was on the computer at work, 12, 14-hour days in the early 80s. But, with this generation now, Rick, the computers have been around for some time now. But this thing is that, these young people, they do not have the interpersonal skills as far as how to communicate with one another. You'll hear the stories like they're in the same household. Say, for example, you have a mom and dad and couple of kids. Well, the kids, they don't even communicate to each other. You know, they're on their phones texting each other, you know, from room to room. I mean, that's very common. So, you know, it has its place, technology does, but the situation is that these young kids, not just this generation, but even the generation before, they do not have any interpersonal communication skills. I mean, they only know how to get on the computer and text and, you know, surf the web and all that. I mean, that's fine. There's a place for that. But I mean, as far as being able to solve problems in the world and communicate with each other, they don't have that, Rick. They just don't. And so the way I look at it, because I taught computers at the college level. And the thing I was going to say is that, you know, it creates people to be very techy, you know, with the computers. But the real serious drawback is they become isolationists. So when a person is an isolationist, they're in their own little world, and it's just themselves and their computer. And, you know, now you can see where the mental health issues come in, because they don't really know how to interface with other people, whether it's their mom and dad or friends or relatives, or there's no sense of community. It's just themselves and their computer. So you can really see why there's so much depression and why there's so much lack of hope and despair among these young people. And it's quite serious. So thank you, Rick, for bringing up about the mental health issue. Then when you take those young people who are also in the JW world, and then they're hearing all the garbage that JW is spewing out from Watchtower, you know, these kids are really just to pack their bags and say, forget this bull crap. You know, we're not interested in any of this. So, you know, it's very real, Rich and Rick, and I do know that, you know, a lot of young people are PMOs, and they're listening in right now. So it's a great topic, Rick. Thank you for addressing it.
Yeah, well, we wanted to, and I came about it with a level of caution, and I want to continue to reiterate that I know as well as everybody out here listening in knows Gen Zers that are wonderful kids. I mean, really, I know many myself. So it's not all, but there is some problems, and the Watchtower is definitely seeing a decline. There's no, in fact, I'll tell you what, the last convention I went to, and I was protesting there, it was back in the year 2000, it would have been 2014, 2015. And we went out there protesting, and I made an effort to try to count there was 6,000 people at the Civic Center, and it was a regional convention. And I made an effort watching the people coming out, how many Gen Zers, how many, you know, 18, 19, 16, 17-year-old kids there were. I'll tell you, it was all little teeny boppers. I don't recall them. I'm not, you know, I can't say for certainty, but, you know, I seen like 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds, but I saw, geez, I didn't see many teenagers at all, 15, 16 years old. They've had it. It's killing the Watchtower. Hey, you run with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Stern. Next caller, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rick, you were talking about counting any teeny boppers, what have you. And, you know, it was probably kids that were forced to go to the convention. They were real young, you know. I mean, I can't imagine seeing young adults anyway going to a convention after, you know, all the information about this organization is out there and what have you on the internet. So,
well, it's the great equalizer, Jeff. We know that. It's the internet that's killing the Watchtower. Thank you, Jeff. Go ahead, Ken, from the Northern Peninsula. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for taking my call here. Okay, I was kind of keeping my eyes and ears open here, just in the local community. I've been hanging around the political candidates and politicians here for the most part, see what I could glean. And of course, there's not very much, but one thing I did notice here in Michigan, we had a big abortion issue, of course, one of the ballot proposals. And normally when they have something like that around, I see the religious societies out,
campaigning. They're out making themselves known and making themselves heard. I haven't saw or heard anything like that at all this year, and so forth. And then I want to comment, number two, on the Watchtower. We know that the religion in general is declining for the most part. The churches are not gaining members or just holding their own to losing, whatever, to say the least. And then now in the Watchtower Society, we remember years ago, the Watchtower Society, the people were dumbed down. They always, if they went, they would promote one of their false prophecies. It didn't come true, so that they'd start over again. Like, for example, it was mentioned in 1975. Well, this day and age, and it's been mentioned before too, and now we're seeing it coming true more and more, that the internet's the great equalizer, and the fact that society is more educated, and they're more knowledgeable of what goes on in the Watchtower Society. So they're not going to have the same clout or the same influence they did years ago. They're not going to have that same influence today. As a matter of fact, the influence is going down. So I'm very pleased to hear that they're not gaining any momentum, and we just hope that their days are going to be numbered here pretty soon and all that, because they have done a lot of damage. And the fact is that they're engaging in these sexual immorality acts and so forth, and destroying moral values. Yeah, it's time for these kind of religious societies to we have just got to put them out of business.
Well, good comment. Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you for calling in from the Northern Peninsula of Michigan. Well, I'll tell you, friends, things are happening. When I used to do the news 17 years ago, 16 years ago, there wasn't much news. The only thing I used to hear was how great the witnesses were, and the Chamber of Commerce loved them during convention time. But it was all good news. But right now, all the news coming across the internet is critical of the witnesses. It's cynical. It's negative. This is really tarnishing the Jehovah's Witness image. Talk about bringing reproach upon Jehovah. This organization takes the cake. And then even we talked, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? We talked about, 2 weeks ago, I think it was. We talked about the Attorney General in Pennsylvania. Chewy brought him up tonight, discussed it. But a farmer, now this came across the internet again. This is again sex abuse. But the former Cambria Jehovah's Witness man, there's more information that came out this week. I'm going to put his picture up here, right here. His name is actually Robert Ostranda. Robert Ostranda. He's from Pennsylvania. Brother Ostranda. Well, he disguised him. Well, what he did is he was abusing young girls, 2 young girls in the Kingdom Hall, and he disguised it as he disguised the sexual abuse as wrestling. That's an old trick, right? Oh, wrestle with the kids and play around with them at the same time. Well, Brother Asandra, he was using that excuse, and authorities are releasing new details about one of these men. His name is Ostranda, as we know. Now, as investigators looked into it, they found out that Ostranda, well, he certainly is now in trouble in the state of Pennsylvania. He was accused of sexually abusing 2 teenage girls over a 2.5-year period in the early 2000s. Police say that the alleged abuse began when the teens were approximately 15, 16 years old. Friends, 15 and 16 is still young. It really is. But some of these perverted pedophiles, they think, oh, they're 15, they're 16, they're adults. They're not adults. They're still young people. They're minors. Now, according to the affidavit, investigators say that Brother Ostranda, he physically abused one of the teens who was identified as a relative of his. How can people do this? Authorities are saying, according to the victims, Ostranda would often grope them and would disguise the abuse under the ruse of wrestling or roughhousing. Yeah, pretty sad. Brother Restronda, you should be ashamed of yourself. Really. How is it really when you stop and think about it? The shame that these men must be feeling. Are they? Maybe they don't feel any shame. To have their faces all over the news. Really. That's what you see all over the news. When you look up Jehovah's Witness sex abuse, these guys are all over the news, newspapers. They run news articles on TV and radio. But yet, how can they really live with themselves? A lot of shame. Go ahead. You're listening.
Hey,
What would you like to say? Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, Brother Estrada at least get one good thing out of it. He'll be able to keep his hobby of wrestling.
Yeah.
I think they're in prison. There'll be a lot of people want to wrestle with them.
Well, I think they'll. He might find that they're using that as a ruse too. I think other things might be going on when he does. Thank you, Randy. Okay, it looks like we have. We got more people. Looks like coming in from Canada. Go ahead, you're on with us.
Hello, my name is Russell from Canada.
Yes, Russell from Canada.
How are you tonight, Rick? You sound pretty good.
Oh, I'm good tonight. I'm always good when I see the Watchtower in trouble. I'm always good. Yeah.
I was a member of the Watchtower Society for over 30 years. While I was inside of the Watchtower Society, I was always abused, bullied, lied about, gossiped about, hated by the brothers, jealous. They were jealous of me because I was working real hard and doing the best I could. I don't know if I said this already, but my daughter was molested. So I had a lot of really negative experiences within the Jehovah's Witness organization. There was none of that love that they say, you will know my people if the love amongst themselves. I never felt that love ever. However, I did meet quite a few really good witnesses there. Like there's some really good people in the organization, and they're trying their best to do the best they can. But there is a lot of negative. There's a lot of ladder climbers. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of people treating their brothers and sisters, maliciously. It's just terrible. Lies about other people, gossip, all this stuff I had noticed in 30 years that I was in. And as a youngster, I went to the meetings with family members, but I wasn't a baptized brother till I was 29 because I had a little bit of a wild youth for a while. But anyways, my point is even back in the 60s and 70s, I heard of incest cases, some child abuse cases, and those things when I was just a kid. The older people would be talking about all that stuff. So this is nothing new. And I'm really glad. I think the internet is a blessing for true Christians and people who believe in God, because it's really bringing out the truth of what should be said and done. And the young children today, the young people today, they don't have to go through all the garbage we went through with that organization. They don't have to be hurt and abused. If they go on the internet and they got a specific question or something like that, they can find the true answers there. And I think the internet's just a blessing. One thing that made me change, I've been out of the witness space since December last year, so not quite a year yet. But I feel a lot better as a person. I'm getting to know myself again. I think I was I'm definitely sure I was brainwashed. I'm happy. I'm associating with my disfellowship daughter who was molested, again, another victim. And we have a great relationship. I have 2 grandchildren now. So life's pretty good since I left. I find that I'm happier and I can be friends with all sorts of people. I love people. I've loved my neighbor, and I just, I grew up in a family of 12, and, there was lots of love and things like that. It was great, so, but I didn't feel that in that organization. I felt coldness, cruelty, meanness, all these different things, and I'm glad I'm out now. I've been out since December, I said before, and the internet is great for people to find information. What really got me out was a bunch of things in the last 2 years before I left, was the overlapping generation. Well, Moses said a generation is 120 years. So people ought to do the math in that organization. No overlapping generations. And that's one thing that got me out. When with the hypocrisy of when I came in the truth in the late 80s and going door to door with the Revelation book. And yet we're condemning the United Nations out on the street, yet the governing body and the Jehovah's organization are members of the United Nations. Boy, did that throw me over. And then I've been looking into Ray Franz, Lloyd Evans, and of course I've been watching your show, and I think it's all good. Keep up the good work that everybody's doing. And that lady there, Barbara Anderson, oh, what a wonderful person. I'd love to meet her. And I'd like to meet you too, Rick. It's so wonderful that people who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses still care about other people and are putting the truth out there and the shows out there. That's all I have to say, Ray. I know I've been a little long, Rick, a little long-winded, but I just wanted people to know.
We love to hear from you. Now, can we give you a name? I mean, you don't have to give us your real name, but what can we call you?
Russell.
Russell.
Yeah. My name is Russell. I'm from Saskatchewan, Canada.
Well, that's we get. I know some people up that way. I've never been up there myself, but thank you, Russell, for calling in. Now, don't you be a stranger. You come back and see us soon, okay?
Yeah. One more thing, too,
Sure.
I should say quickly, I'd be glad to come back, is just the Kingdom Halls are closing down around here quite a bit, especially like I live in, there's a lot of small communities in Saskatchewan. Our whole population is just over 1 million, and there's little communities everywhere, and all those small towns are just closing right up. So people are driving, over an hour to the meetings. So it just goes to show, that you guys are saying the truth, They're shutting down the Kingdom Halls and they're selling them.
That's the bottom line. I mean, that's what's happening. And, people write me, as I was saying at the outset of the program, that's what's going on right now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the Watchtower, they have to keep making it look like things are wonderful. And they're not. They're not. Thank you, Russell. Yeah. Thank you very much for calling in from Saskatchewan. Thank you.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hi, Rick. It's Carrie.
Yeah, Carrie.
I wanted to say, I've been thinking since you started the news, you had mentioned why do people continue to come in here and, week after week. Well, I think it's a gathering together of like minds. I think we've made a lot of friends through the years in the suite. But most of all, let me tell you, your show will never end. You better take a lot of vitamins and stay healthy, because even when every single door shuts down, there's going to be an influx of people coming in here into the suite or on Facebook or whatever avenue that you have open. And they've got a story. This is unending. This show will be unending. So you better take good care of yourself.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I do connect with what you are saying. And, I've been doing this now going on 17 years. And I've never missed a Saturday night. Thank God I've been healthy enough to do it. But the point I'm thinking about here is there's a lot of people, Carrie, that rely on this program. Now, not just because Rick Ferrin is running the network here, but all of the people, they're working so hard to bring programs about, even yourself when you call in, all of the people that make this network up, it's working. All of the people, it's making a big difference. It's helping so many people, and they get what they need listening in on Saturday night. It helps them a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we always learn one new little, even if it's one little thing, but even if every single door of those Kingdom Halls close, this show will keep going, because our doors are always open, because there's going to be a whole bunch of people got a lot of stories.
Yeah, it reminds me of Rush Limbaugh. He'd always come on and rant and rave about his political position. But even when I thought that when the ones that he was speaking about so nastily lost, that his program would lose, but it didn't. There were so many people that had so much to say. It's the same thing here. So there's going to be more and more people coming in all the time. That's right, Carrie. You're right.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, you have a great night.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming out of the suite. And I always appreciate you, Carrie, coming in. I really, really do. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Rick.
All right. Well, there you go. There's Carrie. Now, listen, friends, what we do here, a lot of people might not totally understand what we do, but we are on a number of platforms. We are broadcasting live right now on a number of Facebook groups. We have our own video suite here, which is a private little platform that I have here. And it's software that can bring people in from all over the world. We have people in there right now chatting. It's the 6 Screens Video Suite. And if you want to know how you can get into that, just go to 6screensofthewatchtower.com and scroll down to where you see click here for Video Suite. And that'll bring you in. Just put a fictitious name in. You know, if your name is Susan, put Sally in there. It doesn't matter. And you can get in there, you can chat. People are in there live chatting. So join the Video Suite. Plus, we're on YouTube. We're on Twitch. And a number of other platforms we're on as well. Can't even name them all. But that's what's really helping the 6 Screens. There's so many people that we're reaching. And friends, I'm going to tell you something. Well, what amazes me the most is the telephone line. I want to commend all of those people who listen in on the telephone line every week faithfully. You don't have to be internet savvy. You just have to dial in on a telephone and you can speak up. And that's where the people come in. People say, well, Rick, where are people dialing in from? Well, we have a telephone line that's actually hooked up to our whole system here where people can call in and talk. And I think that is just unbelievable. It creates a real sense of, wow, there's so many people that don't believe in the Watchtower. It adds credibility because when you're leaving the Watchtower, you don't know. I mean, I thought about it. I thought about it. You know, what if I'm leaving? What if this is the truth and I'm leaving? I'm a dead duck. But, you know, this helps people realize it's not just 1 or 2 persons calling in and talking. We have a lot of people do it. So keep up the good work. Keep calling in to the 6 Screens. People love it. Well, let's see what else we got going on here. Well, okay, let's move on here. All right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the $10.6 million that was sent to the Watchtower in the USA from the Canadian branch. See, money that goes into the headquarters coffers is equivalent to what a black hole does to light. It sucks it in and you never see it again. So just stop and think. I just want you to picture this. We know the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses is in Warwick, New York. This is their command center, so to speak. So you have all of these branches all over the world, and they are collecting money on a daily basis, and they're accumulating it, and they're sending the money where? Right here. It all comes to Warwick, New York. And so all of these donations go right to Warwick, and there's no evidence that we know of that all of these billions of dollars that are coming into Watchtower, none of it, we have not ever reported on any of it going to any charitable work whatsoever. But yet they're a charitable organization. So tons and tons of money coming into the Watchtower, and not one iota of information concerning them helping anybody. Now, the Canadian branch sent 10.6 million. That was last year, evidently. So that's just one country. Add them all up. They're in over 200 countries. So add it all up, the money is flowing in. I'll tell you, it's unbelievable. So anyways, I don't know if you caught this at all, but it's concerning. It was all over the internet this week. It was really something else. Can you imagine a young worldly girl? I use the word worldly because I'm using their vernacular, but a young girl that was not one of Jehovah's Witnesses, her and her friend were walking down a street in England, and they were singing Christmas carols, Christmas songs. And, that's not wouldn't that be pleasant? I mean, wouldn't you like to, you see a couple of young girls and they're happy and they're walking down the street and they're singing a Christmas song? Wouldn't that kind of, I don't care if I was a Jehovah's Witness or not, wouldn't that kind of make you feel like, oh, that's nice? Well, not so for this poor little 13-year-old girl. Her name was Sierra, and she was walking to school just on October 17th, just a month ago, when she was singing these Christmas songs along with a few friends. What is the matter with that? I can remember singing songs, and the kids are happy. But, this didn't make a Jehovah's Witness who lived in the neighborhood happy. She overheard these two girls singing, and her husband as well. So they called the police. Now, wait a minute. Call the police because someone's singing Christmas songs and you think it's offensive? You think it's some type of a hate incident? I mean, don't you have bigger fish to fry? So they called the police station and said that, these girls were in our neighborhood and we're Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's very offensive that they were singing Christmas songs. How finicky can it get? I mean, would you just let it go? I think you would. So the Jehovah's Witness actually called the police and told them what happened? Well, the police didn't do much. I mean, come on. Really? But it made the news. It actually made the news. And the Jehovah's Witness woman was so upset. And the father of poor Clara, or that was her name. I forget her name now, but whatever her name was, the father was so upset that his poor daughter had to go through this and get involved with the police department and everything else. I mean, can you imagine that? What's the matter with the witnesses? Jeez, what do they think? They run the world? A couple of girls singing a Christmas song? Let's get real. Well, anyways, I mean, these are the type of stories you come across when you're scanning the internet, trying to find information on the Jehovah's Witnesses. You want to say something? Go ahead. You're on with us. All right. Yeah, I just can't believe that. Go ahead. Yep.
If I was the police, hey, Rick, if I was the police, I would have told them to get a life.
Don't you think, Jeff, there's bigger fish to fry for a police department? I mean, why would a Jehovah's Witness be so feeble-minded, so twisted that they would be dead? Yeah.
They should have been charged for wasting their time.
Yeah, they should have been. The police should have went right out there and said, "Hey, look, we're not going to put up with this baloney." So there you go. Yeah. So, but I keep reading. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Hey, it's Chad. I was just thinking, the Jehovah's Witnesses are supposed to be so neutral when it comes to government. Do they not realize when they reach out to a fire department or an ambulance department or the police department, they're reaching out to government for help?
Yeah. Well, it does make you,
I wonder if it...
Yeah.
Yeah, I that just popped in my head hearing about this Jehovah's Witness calling the police. Like, why are you calling the government for help? Shouldn't you be calling your elders for help? Or your district overseer?
Well, it's a wacky story, but it made the newspapers. It was all over the newspapers. People were reporting it. I mean, what does that make the Jehovah's look like? Geez, it makes them look like they're idiots. It makes them look like they're warped people. That the world is realizing that Jehovah's Witnesses are warped, distorted people. Yes,
Rick? That's right.
Yes. Go ahead. Yep.
Hi, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate your show. I'm always listening. It's so great. I just wanted to comment, if it's okay.
Sure.
My granddaughter told me that she understands why my Jehovah's Witness son and daughter-in-law refuse to speak to me, because I'm always spouting hate speech against the organization. And I'm thinking, isn't it always a double standard with them? They condemn the world. They make fun of other people who are not in their group, other religions. They put down the government. They say you can't be a police officer, but don't they have the police department on speed dial? Aren't they the first to demand their citizen rights, as Americans? Aren't they so arrogant in putting others down? But if anybody says anything that they don't like, we're being persecuted. They can't even stand a Christmas song. How lame are they? Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I mean, when I was a witness, I used to love my favorite Christmas song, and I shouldn't probably have done it. And my former wife used to get upset with me, but I love Bing Crosby's White Christmas. I'm dreaming of a white. I mean, I used to sing it in the shower, and my wife used to get so upset with Rick. Don't be. That's a Christmas song, but I like the song. I like Bing Crosby, but I mean, even little things like that can be very irritating to a witness. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, go
Rick?
ahead. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, Steve here, Rick.
Yeah.
That comment there about the person who reported those girls to the police for singing, that brings up something pretty disturbing. Now, although that was pretty benign, really, he was stupid, but I suppose it was harmless. But that just goes to show that the mentality of some witnesses, and I think we've probably all had a crazy witness in the congregation, somebody who's not quite with it, somebody that goes to the extremes. And that's okay in those cases, you just laugh it off. But on the other extreme, there was that woman who killed her baby because she had the devil in her, and that's the other extreme. And that point, that's a terrifying thought, because there are some people in the Watchtower, some of the rank and file, most of them are okay, but some members are extreme in their thoughts, and who knows what they can get up to. And that's just one little incident. It's not hurting anybody really. It's annoying, but it's not hurting anybody. But that shows how crazy some of these are. And what they could do, as we've already said, by that woman who killed a child because of Stephen Letts talk.
Well, thank you. In fact, I just want to say to Steve, thank you for calling in, Steve, and we appreciate you calling in from the UK. And you're absolutely right. Go ahead, run with us, sister. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, it's Annie from Montreal.
Hello, Annie.
Hi. Great show, as always. I wanted to just make a quick comment about that. The girls singing Christmas carols there, and the JWs calling the police. First of all, the JWs should be ashamed of themselves. And secondly, I don't really understand. Of course, I don't know what the police told them, but if I'm not mistaken, well, the way it is here, when people make unnecessary calls, when you call 911, and if it's not an emergency or something really important, I'm not sure if they can get fined, but there certainly can be, the person can certainly be, I don't know, maybe fined, or at least certainly would get a reprimand from the police department. I believe it's illegal to make any old calls, and for something like that, I would be surprised that the police didn't even reprimand them for that. Maybe they did, I don't know, because it's absolutely ridiculous to anybody really to do that. As far as I know, it's still a free country. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, Annie, I have to tell you, Annie, that you see, you're a woman that has common sense. That's common sense. What's that Jehovah's Witness thinking? What are the police going to come and arrest the teenage girls for singing Christmas carols? I mean, come on. So she's trying to make it a hate.
They should be embarrassed. I mean, to do something like that, it's completely stupid, really. And the mind reels, at the kind of behavior like that. And even if it was someone they knew, maybe they knew the girl, the JW girl, even so, words fail.
Yeah,
Basically.
I think right. But I like what you said because I thought about the same thing. Geez, don't the police have enough going on with people being murdered and people stealing and crooks and goons and creeps? And somebody calls in and says somebody's singing Christmas carols on my street. Come on, I mean, geez,
Exactly. I'm surprised they even went and engaged them. I don't know. I just find it impossible to get my head around. So basically,
well, don't you worry, Annie. A lot of us have a hard time wrapping our heads around Jehovah's Witness thinking. But always good to hear from you from Montreal. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you,
Rick.
Yeah, go ahead. We had Sis.
Rick,
This is Susan. Go ahead, Susan.
Real quick.
Yep. I don't know who that was.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
I
Yep.
think it was me. I just wanted to say that the same witnesses that are so quick to call the police because they don't like the sound of somebody singing Christmas carols on their street are the very ones who would think that it was a terrible thing to call the police on a child molester. Thank you, Rick.
Right. Just turn it around, Anne-Marie. You're right. Yeah, people are writing in on YouTube saying the same thing. Yeah. Call the police.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Farron.
Yeah, hold on, Ken. Call the police on Christmas caroling, but don't call them when someone's being molested. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention there that I don't know, the Watchtower Society, I don't think they'll listen to me, but they ought to do what I do. Next time you hear a song you don't like, try not listening to it. That's number one. And number two, try to check to see what the rules are. I don't know if this was in the city or where it was, but in the city and everything like that, you can have your radio a little loud. You can sing Christmas carols. You can sing if you want to, even yodel, I guess, if you want, and so forth. But then they got what they call an ordinance in there that any loud music and that has to be tuned down. Here in Escanaba, Michigan, it's like after 10 o'clock because people want to get to sleep after that. So as long as it wasn't, disturbing somebody to the extent of being a noise ordinance or a nuisance, Watchtower Society is being foolish and try to bother the police with something like that because they're not going to respond. But if it was a noise ordinance or a nuisance, something that's prolonged playing like for hours and something, then the police would get involved. But yeah, well, I think they ought to try exercising some common sense sometime, and maybe they'll be a lot better off.
Well, actually, it was, Jehovah's Witness, a feeble-minded Jehovah's Witness woman that got all upset because her and her husband heard them singing. So, I mean, Ken, you're absolutely right. There's no reason in the world why that should necessitate a call to the police. That's foolish. Well, thank you, Ken. Thank you for calling in. Appreciate it. All right.
Okay, well, keep listening.
All right, we got a sister, then we got Randy. Yeah, go ahead. Is that you, Susan? Go ahead.
It's me, Susan. I called the police because someone rang my doorbell too early on Saturday morning, and I didn't want to talk to them. How would the witnesses feel then? That call was an absolute waste of time. I don't even know why they wasted the ink printing that news in the newspaper.
Well, you're absolutely right, Susan. You're right. We could reverse it. What about people that are, Saturday morning, 9:30, bing, bing, knock on your door and wake you up? Couldn't you call the police and say there's people in my neighborhood that are disturbing the peace? No, nobody ever did that to a witness. They cut them some slack, Thank you, Susan. Randy, you're on with us next. Go ahead,
they
Randy.
would have said those are their First Amendment rights to preach.
Right.
That's their First Amendment rights. So those girls had a First Amendment right to sing whatever song they wanted. Christmas, Easter, New Year's, something, satanic, I guess, if they wanted.
Yeah.
But, you have a right to sing anything. And Ken is right. As long as it's under a certain decibel amount at a certain time of day, you can't do anything about it.
Sing it out, girls. Sing it out, girls. Thank you, Susan. Randy, you're on here with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that that story reminds me of the double standards and the hypocrisy that Watchtower is so well known for. Because one time Brother Noah was working in his garden and was just humming a song, and it just by coincidence happened to be a Christmas song. And the brother that was with him said, Brother Noah, that's a Christmas song. And he stopped for just a minute, and he said, well, catchy tune, isn't it? Then he just kept on.
Well, there you go. See, so, he even if Watchtower found out about this nutty, loony woman, they wouldn't encourage something like that. It wasn't Watchtower that did it. It was some loony witness. I don't think anybody at Watchtower would say, call the police because someone's singing a Christmas carol. Well, that's what witnesses do, though. They take things to the nth degree. They go beyond what they're even supposed to do. They go crazy after a while. All right. Oh, my goodness. I'll tell you what, we got a lot of people calling in tonight. You're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want you talking about. But we talk about it here every Saturday night and every other Sunday right here on the 6 Screens Tele Network. Well, here's another story here. I mean, there's so many stories coming across our desk here tonight. The European Court of Human Rights condemned France on Thursday. Well, that's just a couple of days ago. So the Court of Human Rights condemned France on Thursday for the rape and sexual abuse suffered by a child placed in a foster family of Jehovah's Witnesses. All right, let's just stop right there. Let's dissect this so you know what we're talking about. There's a court in Europe. It's called the Human Rights Court. They're all upset with France. They should be picking more on the Watchtower than France. But they condemned France on Thursday for the rape and sexual abuse suffered by a child who was put in a Jehovah's Witness family. She was a foster child. So the European Court of Human Rights condemned France for doing this. The young girl was placed in a family of Jehovah's Witnesses, and she suffered rape and sexual abuse over a period of 13 years between 1976 and 1988. It was committed by the father of the host family. So the foster father was raping this young girl for a period of 13 years, and he admitted to it. So anyways, who's coming forth here but this European Court of Human Rights, and they're saying that the French authorities didn't do the preventive measures that would have been necessary and it could have saved the girl from this abuse. So France is now ordered to pay 55,000 euros to the victim. So I thought that was interesting, and the reason why I even bring this story up is, really, the French government now should go back to the Witness family and investigate them. There's plenty of Jehovah's Witnesses. Did you know Jehovah's Witnesses that were foster parents? I knew one, and I knew that they were only doing it for the money. If a foster parent only takes a child in because, well, I'm going to get, $1,000 a month from the state, that's the wrong motive. I would think good foster parents would bring a child in because they want to help the child. They want to get that child moving in a way that can be good for the child because the child has no parents. Imagine how that would be. But here we go. Jehovah's Witnesses, they take these children in, and my goodness, the court should immediately say no. Anytime a Jehovah's Witness wants to become a foster parent, they should be put through the grinder. I mean, really, they should be really vetted to the highest order with all of the sexual child abuse. I can just imagine how many Jehovah's Witnesses who took children in and abused them. This is terrible. So France got in trouble, but the witnesses didn't in France. That really, really surprises me. Yeah, so I want to bring that story up because that story just doesn't. It's got some legs to it, and I hope that the French government investigates any time a child is going to be placed in foster care in a witness family. That could be trouble, really. Isn't it something? Did you ever believe Jehovah's Witnesses could be involved in so much sexual child abuse? Who would ever think that? You wouldn't. When you were Jehovah's Witness, you'd never really heard of this because they covered it all up. All right. So I just wanted to bring that up. There's not too much to.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Steve here again.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think Jehovah's Witnesses should be allowed to foster children. You know, they might be the nicest people in the world, but it's not really their house. It's a Watchtower house. So once they get adopted, they're not or fostered, I should say. They're not just being fostered by those parents. They're being fostered by the Watchtower and all its indoctrination as well. So as far as I'm concerned, people who are in Jehovah's Witness should not be allowed to foster children.
Oh, Steve, that is so sensible. What you're saying there is so sensible. And really, with all of the sexual child abuse cases that are being brought up all over the world, that the witnesses should be prohibited. That should now be an ordinance from all countries. Jehovah's Witnesses should be prohibited from having foster children. I mean, that's another venue in itself. You can just imagine what goes on. You can just, I mean, I can't. It's disgusting even thinking about it. Disgusting even thinking about it. Thank you, Steve.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, I was going to say, not only the child sex abuse, which is the worst, and that's horrible, but they bring those kids in and they're brainwashing them, you know, and into a religion that, you know, the kid might not want to have anything to do with. They have no choice. They'll make them go to meetings and studies and what have you. So.
Well, Jeff, that's a good, that's really, I didn't think of that angle. I'm just thinking of the sex abuse angle, but also now you have another angle, indoctrination. These children are going.
Well, the sex abuse is first and foremost, but the brainwash behind it, as far as the Jehovah Witness cult, that's second, you know, and that's something they're doing too. So.
Yeah, so you get a double whammy. No, these guys should really be prohibited from taking children in like that. Geez, these guys have such a poor record. I tell you, it's just disgusting. But I'm glad we could bring it up here tonight. I hope the countries look into it. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so what we got here, as I'm going through the news, I mean, I look all over the internet all week long and coming up with stories concerning Jehovah's Witnesses, but I came up with this. This story is kind of fascinating to me. I'm going to label it lab-grown blood given to people in first world clinical trial. So what we have here is blood is now being grown, if you want to use that term, or made, whatever term you want to use. It's being made in clinical trials. It's being made in laboratories around the world. So when I saw that come across the internet, the first thing I thought of is Jehovah's Witnesses. What will the organization say about this? What will they say about you taking blood that's grown in a laboratory? Well, at first, when I was looking into this, I said, geez, you know, the witnesses, they might go along with this. This might be a get out of jail free card for the witnesses, because the blood doctrine has created so many problems for them. They don't know what to do because so many people have died. It's hard for them to reverse it. So I'm thinking this might be good news for the Watchtower, that, now witnesses could take blood that's grown in a laboratory and get us off the hook. Well, not so fast, Watchtower. As I looked into the article, this blood that has been grown in a laboratory has been put into people all around the world so far. And it says that tiny amounts equivalent to a couple of spoonfuls are being tested to see how it performs inside the body. So they're still working on that. It says the bulk of blood transfusions will always rely on people regularly rolling up their sleeve to donate. So the massive amounts of blood will still be relying on people to donate blood. But this is how it works. I mean, so how do you look? I'm not a laboratory expert here. I have no idea how they would do it, but I'm just reading the article. So this is how it works. So how do you go about making blood in a laboratory. I mean, what do you start with? Red food coloring? Where do you start? Well, no, not really. Not really. I'm not making fun of it, but I'm just saying that's kind of quite the science, isn't it? So this is really where I see the witnesses are going to have a problem. So in order to make artificial blood or fake blood or whatever you want to call it, they start with a normal donation of a pint of blood. Okay, so right there, that's going to get the witnesses suspicious, right? So you have to start, in order to make artificial blood, you have to start with some normal blood. So you have to get a donation from somebody. So what they're saying here in the article is fascinating. So magnetic beads, whatever they are used to fish out flexible stem cells that are capable of becoming red blood cells. These stem cells are encouraged to grow in large numbers in laboratories and then guided to become red blood cells. So now when I'm reading this kind of medical jargon, I'm saying, geez, maybe the Watchtower could put their heads together here and brainstorm and come up with a way to make this like a fraction. You know, I mean, how they played around with blood. You can take certain fractions, but you can't take the whole blood itself. So this medical jargon that I just read you might give them the avenue to come down to at least suggest, well, you can take some of this. So the process takes about 3 weeks, and an initial pool of around 500,000 cells. This is what got me thinking. So you're making this artificial blood. So you take about 500,000 stem cells. So you need real blood to start. So you need what they call the stem cells in the blood. And if in this process they have of making blood, it actually multiplies the blood they have from 500,000 stem cells that can result in 50 billion with a B red blood cells. So it's medical jargon. It's still, they're doing it though. It's actually happening. This isn't something they're hypothesizing. This is something that's real. So I'm thinking that maybe the blood could, the organization that is, could secretly repeal its blood policy on this. Now, I'm just thinking out loud. Now, nobody's, feeding me information that would make me go in either direction, but I'm just trying to think myself logically. Can the Watchtower use this? Because, I mean, the blood policies of the Watchtower has really been bad press for them. It comes across so often that, people lose their life as one of Jehovah's Witnesses for not taking blood. So is it possible they could repeal their stand without any backlash, that this might be an idea for them to kind of get something moving in a direction where they could allow for this donated blood? But I'm just thinking out loud. I have no idea that this could happen, but they could decide that it's a blood fraction. In other words, you're not, even though whole blood is used, they're extracting stem cells from it and all of that medical jargon. Maybe the Watchtower could take the ball and run with it here, put some legs on it, and reverse their blood strategy. But I'm not sure that would happen. But the Watchtower, really, they're being held hostage on this. And I want you just to stop and think. How could the Watchtower ever get away from this? So many people have died for refusing a blood transfusion. And if the Watchtower just came out and said, okay, it's good now, geez, people would be so upset about that, because they would have said, they would start thinking, gee, I didn't have to lose my child. I didn't have to lose my mother. She could have had so they're in a real pickle. So I'm sure the Watchtower is looking at this. They are looking at this artificial blood, and I'm sure already they're brainstorming on it. Well, I wanted to bring that up. I mean, it's relevant, right? It's relevant. The Watchtower
Rick?
does. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Carrie again. It kind of reminds me of a story what happened to me, and I'll be really quick. Um, I didn't know my stand. I was absent from the Kingdom Hall and all that, and I was going through some really trauma. I was supposed to have a double mastectomy, and that meant I had to have a lot of blood. So I called up the Watchtower Society, and I said to them, listen, I don't know what my standing is right now as far as a witness, whether it's fellowshipped or not. And I told them the story that, you know, I said, what is my standing? And as far as blood goes, and they said, we can't speak to you. So I hung up the phone. I was so upset. Here I was making my stand, waiting for them to, you know, at least talk to me, make me feel better about whatever. I wasn't going to have it anyways. So I called an elder in the little city that I was in, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And I said to him, look, I don't know what my standing is. I may be disfellowshipped. I said, but, and I told him the story, and he said to me this. He said, you are now a person of the world. You can do whatever you want to do. And I was like, wow. That amazed me. I didn't expect that kind of an answer. So, you know, I don't know what what they pull off and all of that, but yeah, this elder told me, he was a young elder, a nice guy. And he said, you know, I'm part of the world now, so I could do whatever I wanted to do.
Well, I know now. I have an answer for you. I have an answer for you. What year was this? Do you remember?
Okay, we got to go back. We got to go back to at least the latter part of the 70s, maybe close to 1980s. So yeah, that's when basically I have lost. I have a problem with dates and stuff like that. Only certain things I can remember. I can remember a lot of stuff, but not dates. So yeah, but it had to be after I left my ex-husband. And that was after 75, after, you know, Armageddon.
Well, the reason the reason why I bring it up is in the year, right around the year, I'd say 2001, 2002, the Watchtower started taking a new position on their blood policy. There were people dying. And with all the lawsuits they were having on child sex abuse, they realized it was only a matter of time, and perhaps witnesses being prohibited from taking a blood transfusion would create additional lawsuits. So what I did, because I did read about a change in around that year on blood, because of the fractions, what you could take, what you couldn't take. So I called the Watchtower to find out exactly if a person would be disfellowshipped for taking a blood transfusion. So I talked to a Watchtower lawyer at the time. I called the Watchtower headquarters, talked to a lawyer about it. And the Watchtower lawyer said, well, Mr. Farron, he called me Brother Farron, actually. He said, well, Brother Farron, our position that we take here at the Watchtower is we really don't want to be in a position to tell a person not to take a transfusion. But isn't that what they do? I mean, seriously, when you think about it.
Oh, yes, yes, because when I was studying so many years ago, and this was in the 60s, I had to go in the hospital and I had to sign papers, no blood. Now, I had no idea what I was doing. I was young. I had no idea. And my teacher came in and she insisted that I not have this blood no matter what. And so I wrote down on the paper that I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I really wasn't. I was just studying, that's all. So, you know, but things were different back then. I'm sure a lot of things have changed after So many people have died because of it. And it's sad, but they were dying for, for what they believed in. And it was God's so-called rule for us. And, it was a sacrifice.
Well, let me just roll back. In other words, so you weren't even a baptized witness at the time.
Oh, at that time, no. I was studying,
All
and
right.
I ended up in the hospital, and I had to fill out these papers, and my teacher stood over me. I remember, this is kind of funny, I remember when priests came into all the rooms around Ash Wednesday, and they put ashes on my forehead. My teacher came in, my witness teacher, and she spit on her finger and she wiped that right off. She was very upset about that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that certainly would make things difficult for you. But what I wanted to say though is when you talk, and let me get this right, when you talk to Watchtower, they said that you're now considered a worldly person.
No. The elder from a congregation in my city that I hadn't seen in quite a while, I called the elder there. No, the Watchtower wouldn't even speak to me. They told me straight out, we cannot speak to you. And I was so upset after, my doctor telling me all of this stuff. It was like a death sentence for me if I didn't have this operation. But anyways, the long and short of it is that I did live, and I didn't get the blood because I didn't get the operation. But the Watchtower refused to speak to me under the terms that I was possibly disfellowshipped.
Well, back in,
it was in question.
Yeah, well, what they did is they got to be very cautious about this because, people were dying because of this, that they knew the legal ramifications. But in 2002, 2003, when I called the Watchtower lawyer, he said that, no, we don't, by taking a blood transfusion, the Watchtower, does not disfellowship someone. They disfellowship themselves. They disfellowship themselves.
Wow.
That was his answer.
That's amazing. That's amazing. See, that's new light.
Yeah.
That's new light. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that I was under the old light.
Yeah. So they don't
elder.
Yep.
This elder was wonderful. He made me feel so good. But I took the stand not to have the operation. And this is many years ago, and I'm still alive and still intact.
Well, you're still here. You're still here with us, Carrie, and I thank God for that. You're a wonderful woman, and we always love to talk to Carrie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Have a great night.
Well, thank you. So there you go. So the Watchtower lawyer that I talked to, he says, no, we don't disfellowship anyone for taking a blood transfusion. We don't do that, but they disfellowship themselves. So what would you take?
Rick?
Yes.
Yeah, Rick, if they disfellowship themselves, can they reinstate themselves?
Oh, that's a good question, Dick. In fact, I remember we discussed this even before. In other words, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It should go both ways. It should go both ways, but it only goes one way in the Watchtower, their way. Thank you, Dick. Well, there you have it.
Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, Rick, I make a long story real short. From about 2 years old to 4, I had to take blood transfusions. Anyway, I had a New World Translation in my hand, and I had a Live Forever book, and my parents weren't witnesses. And I was talking to my mother, and she says, we got on the blood transfusion subject. She goes, do you realize if me and your father were Jehovah's Witnesses, you wouldn't be here right now? She turned around and walked away, Rick. I stood there with my blank mouth open. So there you go.
Well, it's always been a big issue, Jeff. It really, really has been. And many, many people, including numerous friends of mine, have died for following the policies of the Watchtower. And this
But
is
Rick, doesn't that tell you something right there? If you hold up the Bible to a witness and say, does the Bible ever change? They will say no. But then what's all this new light with, oh, now we realize people are dying from taking blood, but we have to change that? So now the Bible doesn't backtrack. The Bible has not changed. And like I said, the first thing any witness will tell you, if you hold up the Bible and say it has to change, they'll say no. So where's this new light coming from? That's why I think the governing body should be under the nearest jail, because as you know, many witnesses, and there have been several Awake or Watchtower covers showing the pictures of children who have been quote unquote sacrificed for 7 old men in Brooklyn at the time for making up these new rules. That's absolutely ridiculous. Now an adult has the right to choose a religion, a child does not. So, that's just insanity. That's just crazy. How can a religion play with somebody's life? Blood, okay, Christmas, we know Christmas. Although they used to celebrate Christmas as well, I'm sure you know. But blood, I mean, crazy. That's absolutely, how do they get away with that? Like, yes, an adult has the right to choose their religion. An adult has children. A 7-year-old, a 3-year-old, a newborn, and many pregnant women had to have the option of blood, or not, to save their children. So, I think that's just insanity. What other religion, what other religion does that with the blood? I know, like Christian Scientists, they don't believe in, medical help or whatever, to a certain extent. But, I mean, that's just crazy with the blood. I think that's absolutely crazy.
Well, you're not the only one, Shirley. The medical world thinks it's crazy. It's distorted. It's warped. It's debased. That is not normal thinking. But the Watchtower gets away with it, and how are they going to ever reverse it? I'm sure they're looking for ways to do it, but what are you going to do with people who've died? I had a young friend of mine. I went to his wedding, and he was only 22 years old. He got married, a beautiful girl he married. They had a wonderful time, and a year after he got married, he needed a blood transfusion. He had leukemia, and he died. He wouldn't take it, and he died. And the stories, I got more stories to tell about it too, but I won't. But the thing is now, what does the Watchtower do about this?
They backtrack. They do the new light. They backtrack. Yeah. That's why I don't understand. Like I said, you hold up a Bible to a witness and you ask, did the word change? They will say no. So, but yet, all this new light. Now we're doing this. Now we're doing that. And they eagerly accept it. So, I mean, obviously they've gotten away with it. But in my mind, it's just the blood issue. Life, you're playing with people's lives. And even doctors know they don't want to deal with that blood issue, because I just was fooling out. One doctor prescribed a certain medication, whichever way our conversation went, and no, I was not a witness. I am not, I was not baptized or anything. But I just went, well, if I was Jehovah's Witness and I didn't want blood, you would, have to, honor my wishes. And just the look on his face, it wasn't a look of horror like, oh my God. But just something you could tell, like he's been through that before. Because these doctors, I'm sure they have many patients and many Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not going to exaggerate. No, it was like, oh my God, something like that. But I could tell by a look on his face that he has, a JW patient or whatever. And he's kind of been through that for real. I was just bringing up the issue because I didn't want to take a certain medication. But blood, that's the real deal. Well, so even doctors, they have to put up with that, and they have to get a court order like a child. I'm sure you've heard of that. They have to get a court order. The parents didn't want the child to have blood, but they had to go to the court order. So that's just crazy.
Of course it's crazy. Of course it's crazy. And I'll tell you what, that's why being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, Shirley, is really a tough thing for people. Normal people don't have to live under these type of requirements and policies. Normal people can just live a normal life and get on with life. Jehovah's Witnesses are held back. Jehovah's Witnesses are really just controlled by an organization that's taking full advantage of them. Terrible.
I just don't understand. I think they should all be in jail for that. I mean, what other religion? Like I said, the Christian Scientists don't believe in medicine, and they've had some court orders for children too. But the witnesses, you know, how long that's going on. But yet the thing that gets me, now only we can take blood fractions. And where does a fraction come from? Blood. A fraction of what? A fraction of cotton? No, a fraction of blood.
Oh, yeah.
So the fraction comes from blood.
Oh, there you go.
So, I mean, it's crazy.
It is crazy. I'll go with you. Thank you, Shirley. Okay, we got more coming in. Come on in. You're on with us. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, this is Dan. Good show tonight. Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick point. I love it that they're, you know, I hate that people are dying, but I love that it's under a spotlight. I love that the organization has been drugged under a spotlight. Like you said, there's no backing out. You get sued your ass off, you know, for saying, well, we've had a change of thought. Now, that's one thing they can't change. And so, you know, I mean, they'd be so liable. But what's interesting and the beautiful thing is Watchtower has a light on them. The light is on people dying now. I mean, if anybody dies anywhere in the world, the whole world knows instantly. And so here we got Watchtower people dying, and the Watchtower has to watch. They have to watch the stuff that was behind the scenes. People passing away behind the scenes. Watchtower was who gives a shit. But right now, the whole world is watching Watchtower, you know, especially with these things coming out. And Watchtower has to watch themselves be humiliated publicly, worldwide, before the world, shamed for killing people, taking blood fractions now. Oh, we can take blood parts, you know, but we can't take this or we can't take that. These guys are in the perfect place to have for them to be choked out, to be done with. And that's what's happening, Rick, just what you're saying. There's no way out. I don't think there's any way out. They can mastermind, they can get in their little groups, but I'll bet you $1 million there's 1 million people just waiting for them to say the wrong thing, to say we got new light on this or we got a new idea, and they're going to hammer these guys in the ground like a spike. So, Rick, I see them like you, just wiggling and worming, but they're in the spotlight, and they're going to be shamed to death, I think.
Well, Dan, there's something I like that you just said. Said. You mentioned 1 million people are waiting. I wouldn't doubt that one bit, because if they change that, all of these people died for nothing.
Murder.
They died.
Murder, Rick.
Yeah.
Murder. Spiritual murder. You know, how is it different than Jonestown? You know, to say, you know, it's time to drink the Kool-Aid. How is it any different?
No different.
That these men made up some stuff, Rick, made up shit out of the Bible, used it as a weapon against these people. And like you said, it's what kind of separated them before, but now they're under a magnifying glass, like rats,
yeah.
Under a magnifying glass. I hate to use that terminology, but they're caught. They're caught in a trap of media. They're caught in a trap of internet. They're caught in a trap of all eyes on them. And you're right, Rick. I believe it too. There's a bunch of people saying, my God, if they change this, I'm going to sue them for everything. If you think the pedophile thing's bad, wait till this blood thing comes up.
That's another problem boiling. And that's what got me thinking today when I saw that article about artificial blood. You know, I'm sure they're looking at it and saying, geez, maybe we have an out here, but I don't know if there's any out at all. Well, thank you, Dan. Always good to hear from Dan.
Thank you, Rick.
A good man, Dan.
Thank you too, guys.
Yeah.
Hello?
Go ahead. You're with us.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, you're on.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
How are you?
I'm good.
Nice to speak to you. Nice to, I just wanted to talk about these, I know we're jumping back a bit, but I wanted to talk about the Christmas Carol incident, because I actually saw it in a paper, and it is actually been recorded as a hate crime. It wasn't stupid noise, and I think apparently they do know each other, and the girl is only 13 years old, so she's now been recorded. It's been recorded as a hate crime, and the police are investigating it because she's sung a few Christmas carols, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, they do actually know the girl or know her family, and they reported it as a hate. It's actually been recorded, and the police are now investigating it. It's a bit of a thing over here at the moment. We're having a real battle with freedom of expression. People have been. I mean, there's a YouTuber, quite a well-known YouTuber, and the police visited her house because she'd been talking about paedophile incident, and they said that she has been untoward, quote unquote, untoward, unquote, about a paedophile, and they actually recorded it as a hate incident. She's spoken on YouTube about the paedophile incident. And there's actually an organisation called Fair Cop, and it's ex-police officers trying to stop this madness that's happening in Britain at the moment, where almost anything, if somebody perceives something as being offensive, it can be recorded as a non-crime hate incident. And apparently this is what they're investigating. This will either be recorded as a non-crime hate incident or an actual hate crime, in which case she will be taken to court for this. So, yeah, the father was really upset because he's worried about his daughter. He's upset. She's only 13. So, yeah, those obviously Jehovah's Witnesses they're kind of cotton on to what's going on politically in this country, and we'll have a bit of that, So anyway, just thought I'd let you know.
All right. Well, thank you. I know you're calling in from the UK, but we had we could hear you, but it wasn't really clear. But we did hear you. But
sorry.
Well, what I want you to do is we have. I don't know if it's costing you to call in, but we have a free app that you can get. Why don't you write me, or anyone listening in from the UK or anywhere around the world? We can get you an app. Write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, and I'll give you the app, and you'll come through nice and clear, and it won't cost you anything. So why don't you do that, sister?
Yeah, I will do.
Do that. And we'll be able to.
Thank you, Rick.
Oh, thank you. Good to
Sorry
talk to you.
about that.
That's okay, but we can hear you.
Sorry.
But I want to hear you better. I want to hear you better. Thank you, sister.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Goodbye now. Bye now. Yeah, there you go. My goodness gracious,
Bye.
French. Bye. So what?
Hi. This is Apostle Babe.
Yes, Linda.
I just wanted to add that, besides having to turn down the blood transfusion, if a doctor does choose to give a blood transfusion to a Jehovah's Witness, after they survive, they sue them. They take the doctor to court and sue the doctor. And I was just reading something last night where it takes this one situation took almost 20 years of the child living. So, and then they finally, the court situation ended. But so that's another thing that doctors have to get through their heads as well. Besides just not giving a blood transfusion, they risk being sued if they do give a blood transfusion.
Right. Well, that's a good point, Linda. That's a point. It really causes a problem for the medical world. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. There you go. Well, that's Apostle Babe will be on tonight around 11:30, so don't miss Apostle. In fact, it'll be probably around 12:30, but she'll be coming on tonight.
Thank you.
She's your favorite apostate.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Yeah.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Rick.
Go ahead, Susan. That you, Susan?
Hello, Rick.
Okay. I guess that's Constance. Yep.
Yeah, it is me, Rick. I was going to say, in reference to the blood transfusion thing, just a couple thoughts. It's very interesting. If people ever look at the nation of Israel today, they do have huge blood banks for Jewish people. So, you think about in Bible times when the Jews, if Watchtower is so correct, my point is, why do Jews today, why are they allowed to accept blood? And not only accept blood, but they store blood, huge amounts of blood over there in Israel today. So that's just a thought, the first thought I had. The second thought I had is, in ancient times, they used to sacrifice their children to Baal and Moloch, which is throwing their babies into the fire
which was a human blood sacrifice. Well, Watchtower has this issue with regards to no blood. But, Rick, it really comes down to it's a human blood sacrifice. It's no different than ancient Bible times. I can even prove that today, outside of Watchtower. You had Anton LaVey, who followed Aleister Crowley. He was the Church of Satan in San Francisco, which is where I was from, the Bay Area. And he did the 6 defilements. There were 7 of them, defilements of his daughter, Ray LaVey. And he performed 6 of them on her, which were sexual ritual abuses. But the 7th one, he was a Satanist, so was Aleister Crowley. But the 7th one was a human sacrifice. It was to sacrifice his own biological daughter, to murder her and sacrifice her as a human blood sacrifice to be the bride of Satan. So what is my point in bringing this up? Well, this is nothing more than a satanic ritual when you talk about human blood sacrifices. And that's exactly what Watchtower is doing when people are prohibited from taking blood. It's nothing more than a human blood sacrifice that the Satanists perform today. Even when you have over there in the Bohemian Grove here in California, and it's only a few hours from me, you have Hillary Clinton, who's a known witch in her coven. She goes there every single year with a lot of other high-powered political people, and they go before that 40-foot owl, which is supposed to represent wisdom. But what they do is a human blood sacrifice every year. And it's very private, and nobody is allowed in except just, the high political officials. So these people that practice this, Rick, are very much involved as Satanists. So I just really want to, bring that to the attention of viewers, because they think, oh, we're doing what Jehovah God wants us to do. No, they're not. This organization is very satanic. You don't have God's Holy Spirit in this organization. And people who do sacrifice human sacrifices, whether it's a child or an adult, it's very satanic. So thank you, Rick.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because when we're discussing blood, it almost, in fact, it does run into the realms of so evil that people have to die because they can't take a transfusion. And so many people have. It comes into the realm of real evil, satanic evil. So thank you for bringing that up, Constance. Well, I'll tell you what, we are on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. And why? They don't want us talking about this, right? Jeez, this is just doing nothing but bringing them down further and further and further. But every week we go through this, and there's always something popping up over the internet that just is totally, strikingly interesting to me, including this next story that I wanted to bring up. It's concerning the big mega media center up in Ramapo. Yes, we all know about that, right? Well, we know that's a big media center. It's on 242 acres of land. It's going to house 1,500 people plus. They have apartments up there. There's over 600 of them. It's a huge, huge complex, and that's being built in Ramapo, New York. It's about a half a mile away from the world headquarters in Warwick. But the reason why I bring this up tonight, we're going to show you a little video about it. I think everybody on here knows about it. So this is a studio that the Watchtower wants to build to do their video filming, to be able to have all the right equipment, and like Disney or Universal Studios or Paramount or Warner Brothers. They want to be like that, and they want to be able to produce these videos, and they're looking for actors and actresses, and they're really putting this together, and they're really building it as the next avenue or the next frontier for Jehovah's Witnesses. So the thing is, I'm going to play you a little clip. If you're on Facebook, YouTube, and other platforms, for the most part, you'll see it. But let's play the clip, give you a little idea of how big this is. This is huge. I mean, I checked out the Disney studios in California. This thing rivals it. I mean, is the Watchtower Disney? I don't think so, but they think they are. Do they need a studio like this? Something doesn't pass the smell test. I'm going to play you a clip on this audio video production center, as the Watchtower is calling it. So I'm going to play this for you right now. So let's listen in. You'll see it if you're on YouTube. Let's play it now. All right, let's do it. There you go. There it is. It's giving you a little idea. You can see it if you're on YouTube right now. You can see what's going on here. They're showing you the center. Look at that massive center. Look at it. That's a projected view. It's showing tons of buildings, big buildings up in mid-state New York. This is where they're going to produce their video center. Let me see if we can't get more information on that. Let's go to, well, let's see if I can. Okay, let's scroll down here. Well, let me just show you this. Well, look at this place. It's massive. It's showing, look at, these are all the housing. This is where the production people and the actors and people that are going to be working on these videos are going to be living. And it's massive, as you can see. So I wanted you to see this at least. There's no real sound to this, but it is showing you how big it is. Take a look at that. And let me scroll down now and see if we can't talk a little bit more about it. Let's take a look over here. It's showing all the buildings. It's showing everything that is going to be needed to produce the Watchtower videos. But anyways, let me see. There's a little bit I can read to you. The new audio video production center is proposed at 155 Sterling Mine Road in Ramapo. This center will support operations of the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses. And the facilities will include offices, maintenance, set production workshops, an energy center. And I mean, we've got like 600 plus residential units, recreational facilities, fitness facilities. So, I mean, is this really something that are the Jehovah's Witnesses talking about this? But we'll stop sharing this right now. But are the Jehovah's Witness, is the organization talking about this? This is what I wanted to know. I haven't heard much about this in the last few months. In fact, I tried to stop them. I got into the hearings that are being held for the permits, that they wouldn't let me speak up. We talked about that many times here. I got in on Zoom and tried to alert the people to what Watchtower is trying to do. But right now, nobody seems to be talking about it. But I'm getting information coming in from different congregations, and it's like mixed feelings on it. So some congregations and Jehovah's Witnesses are very excited that this project is going forward, and they're so glad that the Watchtower is doing this to produce more films. And of course, many are even wanting to provide free labor. They want to go up and spend a couple of years free labor. So there's many that are excited, but there's also many Jehovah's Witnesses that are indifferent toward it. Many, they're not really talking about Ramapo project. Nothing is being said about it. They're very indifferent about it, and they're not really speaking about it. So that's another thing. And then there's some that are actually negative. They're negative. They're questioning this. There's many Jehovah's Witnesses that feel the Jehovah's Witness organization doesn't need this. Some are saying that they already are producing videos. Do they really need to spend this amount of money to produce more when they're already producing some pretty good videos right now? So the organization wanted this project to be in high gear. In other words, they wanted all of the building to start by the beginning of 2023. It looks like it's not happening. It's not happening. the organization website stated they would need 1,500 workers on the site each day. Well, they're not getting the 1,500 workers to even show up. So they've been oddly quiet about this massive project. Now, we've talked about it. We've talked about it for the last couple of years on here. But why all of a sudden have they been quiet about this massive project? I don't know the reason, but I'm just wondering, are they having trouble perhaps getting the permits? I know that even when I went into the town offices through Zoom and tried to speak up about it, they were having some difficulties. But there's plenty of citizens in the town of Ramapo who don't want this massive complex going on in their area. They don't want their streets to be widened and the roads to have more traffic. They don't want it. So the Watchtower, they wanted to get this project started by late 2022. Here we are in November, but nothing has happened yet. Did someone want to say something? Someone's coming in here, and you got YouTube playing in the background. So let's see who's coming.
Rick?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Thomas Hodgson. Yeah, I really have to applaud you, Rick, for all the effort you have made toward this whole thing before it's ever gotten off the ground. God forbid, I hope it never gets off the ground. But yeah, I think this is something we all should just keep trying to do, if possible, whatever we can do to try to help alert people and help to see the real dangers this organization presents for the local communities over there. I really have a soft spot in my heart for them because they're going to really, brainwash people, and they're going to cause people to be upset. And I really also think too, Rick, that a lot of these people are waking up, and like you kind of mentioned there, and ever since the lockdown, it's been really hard for a lot of companies to get enough workers to even come to work. And I think this same attitude has even affected more of the Watchtower more than we realize. I'd be really surprised if they get enough JWs suckered into going there. I'm sure they'll get a few diehards, but they may not even get this thing off the ground, and let's pray and hope they don't.
Well, Thomas, you're absolutely right. And that's what I'm finding out here as I'm digging into this more and more. They are having some trouble. This thing was supposed to start by now. It should be in full operation. Go ahead, run with us.
Hello, Rick.
Yes.
Hi, Rick. This is Bill. So ultimately, everything Watchtower does is an investment to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And whatever they do with it, they'll figure out how to make a lot of money and how to make sure that the right people make money as well. And so I'm sure they're going to help a lot of other crooked situations come about, just so more people can make money off of that boondoggle that they're trying to pull off. And they're going to use as many people as they can. They're going to sucker in as many witnesses as they can to donate their time.
Well,
yeah, in fact, our daughter's in-laws moved up from Florida, and they're old folks. I mean, they're older than us. And boy, they're so excited to have the chance to work there.
They are.
So,
well, that's interesting.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Fran. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rick, this is not like a Kingdom Hall going up in one day. And I was going to say, I mean, there's a lot of ramifications in a state like New York that the labor's got to be union as far as construction work. And they may be having some problems with that. I mean, it's a closed shop state, and I'm kind of familiar with the trade unions, and, they may be having, like I said, some real problems, getting through that. We don't know. Of course, they're not saying, but I imagine that they're going to really hammer the membership on getting money from them to build this center that they're trying to build.
Well, Jeff, no, it's good you bring that up, because I wanted to bring that up as well. Not with the labor unions, but they are having labor problems. Evidently, and a lot of witnesses do not know this, but there were people killed building Warwick and other Watchtower projects, but you never hear about it. These are untrained people.
Wow.
Construction is not, that's not a safe thing. Construction's dangerous. There's heavy equipment.
Yes.
There's all kinds of problems you can run into. People get killed producing major projects. And right now, I do believe it's on hold. Maybe because of this, they had to hire out non-Jehovah's Witnesses. They want as many, free labor people as they can get, but they have hired out, and they haven't started yet, but they have at least hired out foundation people to do the foundation. They don't want their own witnesses doing it. They're realizing that, their own witnesses, as much as they're obliging to come and go to work, but they're not skilled. These are just, average people. They go in, okay, put your hard hat on. Here's some instructions. This is what you do. That's not how major construction projects work. So the Watchtower is becoming very concerned that, if they just allow 1,500 people to come up there and start working like Joe and Fran's relatives, they could get hurt. And then the Watchtower is really in a pickle. And they're hiring now, what I understand, the Watchtower is hiring out contractors that are not Jehovah's Witnesses. So these contractors bring in their own tools, they're fully insured, and they know what they're doing. Geez, if you have contractors that are building foundations every day of the week, they know what they are doing. So having unskilled volunteers using the wrong tools and not really knowing what they're doing could create a lot of headaches for the Watchtower. Yes. Yeah, people have died. I don't know if you guys, we don't report much on it here, but this might be a good time to do it. Many people have even been killed and injured badly on quick bills. Never mind major projects like Ramable. Go ahead. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Construction projects are just generally dangerous, Rick, because of the heavy equipment and the size of them. As far as what they're going to build, that's huge. That ain't a Kingdom Hall, man. That's their media center, from what I understand, is going to be humongous of what you've been telling us. So,
well, it's huge. It's big. It's gigantic. It's a mega media center. It's got over 600 apartment units. Think about it. When's the last time you went by any apartment complex where you live out in Iowa that has 600 apartments? Do you know of any?
Yeah, I can't. No, I can't imagine. That's unbelievable, Rick.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was even that big.
Oh, yeah.
My God.
Well,
Rick, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rick, am I wrong in remembering that when they were first asking for volunteers to work on the new headquarters over in Warwick, didn't the volunteer witnesses have to sign some kind of waiver, like if they got hurt, that they were responsible for their own injuries or something like that?
Yeah, the Watchtower does make them at least understand that, there's risks involved. And I do believe they have to sign some type of a waiver, as you say. But, I have to tell you that I know a man here that knew a person that was killed on a quick build. And the man was in his 70s. He was a 76-year-old man. He was a little older than me. And he was up on a quick build doing the roofing. And it was 90 degrees out, very hot. And all of a sudden, the man collapsed and died. He was serious. Well, he died from heat exhaustion. But you never hear of these things. And there's been numerous people killed at Warwick as well, from what I understand, and Patterson. All of the big complexes combined, there's been numerous people that have been killed constructing projects for the Watchtower. See, Watchtower is driven purely by greed and profit. So they realize that, wow, we're getting all this free labor, but now the way the world is moving, not so fast. lawsuits all over the place. So the Watchtower is really beginning to look into the fact that, do we really want to continue to work with untrained workers? Now, I'm sure once the building's up, you can have people coming in paint, and even people, do kind of landscaping and what have you that are unskilled. But when it comes to foundations and major plumbing and electrical work, you need people to know what they're doing. You just can't have a volunteer come in and say, here's the instructions, go do it. So they're starting to see this, and now this whole project has been put on hold. So their whole thing is just, well, I'll tell you what the Watchtower is doing, okay? That they want to build this media center because they know what's going on in the real world. We're in a media world. They're looking at some of the most profitable companies in the world: Apple, Netflix, HBO, Disney, Peacock, etc. And they're seeing that these guys have digital content and they're making money with it and they're streaming it. And they're drooling over the fact that they can have their own little studios up there in New York and get all these people on their streaming service and probably charge them every month. They're looking, this is the next frontier for the witnesses. They want to be able to monetize this. And each congregation, from what I can gather, I'm just thinking out loud, but I think this is going to happen. Streaming is the way it's going. People are paying, monthly services to have streaming coming into their home. So each congregation, from what I can gather, I may be wrong, but I believe they're looking at this so they can create a donate basis here, a subscription-based service that will be able to have Watchtower video streaming come into your house, and maybe for, I don't know, $10 a month. I don't know what they're going to charge people, but that's what I'm thinking. So they got to get this done, and now it's held up. Yeah. Go ahead,
Rick. You make so much sense. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. But that's how I'm looking at it, because look at what you got to do is you got to get out in front of things. Streaming. People are cutting their cable. Let me tell you the difference between streaming and cable. Okay, it's two different animals. Right now, I don't know if anybody knows it, but I have Comcast. You might have Comcast, or you might have Verizon. And these are cable services. People are cutting their cable. Well, what's your cable bill running you? For goodness sakes, it's expensive. Cable, I mean, if you want channels on TV, you could pay $150, $200 a month for that. So people don't want to pay that. But you can get streaming, for example, Peacock. Well, what's Peacock? Well, that's owned by NBC. And NBC says that for $6.95 a month, you can watch all the Disney films. You can watch all of the NBC programs that have ever been produced. That's what people want. They could give two hoots of beans. They just want to be entertained. So they'll go with that. Paramount has a streaming service. Warner Brothers has a streaming service where you can get all their old movies, pay a fee, and watch them as long as you want. So cable is being cut. Watchtower says, oh man, this is a jumbo amount of money that we could be making here streaming. Boy, we have 8 million witnesses, and we get each family to pay us $8-10 a month. We're going to make money like crazy and really not have to produce another magazine. So this is where they're going. This is where the Watchtower is heading, but not so fast, Watchtower, because I think this one's blowing up in your face. And I just hope this wasn't a scam in the first place. That thought even runs by my mind. Really, do they need a big facility like this? It was just as a way to get the witnesses to spend money, because they've already been collecting money for this project. It reminds me of, remember Jim and Tammy Baker? Do you remember them? Oh, we're going to build this big amusement park in North Carolina, and we're going to build condominiums, and all of our Christian listeners can come and buy a condominium. So start putting deposits on it now. So they started taking deposits from people that were, honest-hearted people that really believed in Tammy and Jim, and they bought into this condo development that never took place. They lost all their money. It was a real fiasco. So I don't know if this is a scam that the Watchtower is involved with here. They might just scrap the whole thing, but already people have donated tons of money. Will they get it back? But I don't know, friends. I don't think there's anybody that knows. All I do know is it's not started. It was supposed to be started by now. So just my thoughts. I don't know. I mean, sometimes you.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, it's Chad again. And I was just doing some thinking, and I just realized I think you're thinking too small for the size of the facility, for what it's going to cost them in utilities and other such things. It would make more sense for them to create their own channel. And then on things like Tubi and Pluto, which are free services, there's a JW channel there if they want it. They can have their own channel on cable networks, which more people, like you said, are cutting the cable. But then they could also have their own channel for satellite dish networks. And also for, like, my mom, she cut the cord. Now she's got Roku. And on Roku, you could create a free channel, and then all the Watchtower would have to do is sell goods on the channel and also ask for donations, and they could bring in more money than if they were to charge $10 a month for the streaming service to Jehovah's Witnesses. And not only that, they would also be expanding their audience to non-Jehovah's Witnesses, and they could do what the Mormons right now are doing with their advertisements on YouTube. And they could say, go to jw.org and schedule a free home Bible study. So at this point, they wouldn't even have to go door to door anymore. They would have the people contacting them. It would make it even easier for them to reach out to more people.
Oh, exactly. That would be an excellent way to do it. Absolutely. I'm with you with that. I really agree. I agree with what you're saying. Yes. Excellent.
Hey there, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that's how 3ABN, which is 3 Angel Broadcasting, it's the Seventh-day Adventist. They have their own satellite, and we used to go over there and visit sometimes, and it was like, how do these churches stay open? Because there was only like 3 to 20 people there ever, and I thought these are really nice buildings, but they don't even need the buildings because everyone has a satellite dish. When we went down to Oregon, the whole complex, whole Seventh-day Adventist like complex, they all had their own satellite dish. And Angela's father said, do you want a satellite dish? I said, for what? So they said, so you can stream 3ABN, which is their 3 Angel Broadcasting Network. But here's what they got, Rick. They're actually, once they get this facility set up, if it gets set up, then they can push the tithing. Like, we don't have the kingdom halls. We don't have all that maintenance. We've gotten rid of all that. We've got that overhead, but we've got this overhead out here. And all we need to have is people be faithful contributors and just worship right from your own home. It's a big thing. And so they're doing quite well. I mean, they really are. Their churches, there's nobody in them, but everybody's at home. First, second, third tithes. And, Angela said that's wrong. That was worldwide. But anyway, they're all giving their tithes. You know, they all do a tithe. And that's how they're making their money. And I'm watching Watchtower slyly move into that. You know, I mean, they're double talking, saying, you know, we never ask for money. We're the organization that's unlike the world. But they are asking for it. They're asking for it all the time. But I think this media center, should it go up, it's going to be the catalyst for them to be able to say, hey, now we need you guys really to contribute. We've got an infrastructure in place. We don't have to worry about, you know, the pandemic or anything like that. If that should ever occur again, you can worship from the house. That's probably their master plan. But like you say, Rick, I don't know if it's going to get off the ground. Maybe it won't. Maybe there's too many lawsuits. Biden, I guess, just signed some kind of paper the other day. You probably heard about it, where there's no more restricted time frame for people to come and report, you know, people have been sexually abused. There was a time frame, but I think it's wide open now. Have you heard that, Rick?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
we're praying, man, it don't get off the ground, because they're gonna give their interpretation of the Bible, and like I said, those people are gonna eat Bible 24/7 from a JW perspective, and it's all guilt and shame and fear. So anyway, going down.
Well, thank you, Dan. I always appreciate your passion and your commitment. Thank you very much. Well, anyways, folks, we are moving forward here. You're on JW World News. We still have more stories to discuss here tonight. So stay with us. And we're so glad to have so many people calling in. That always makes the program very, very interesting and fascinating. So keep the calls coming. Well, let's take a look here. Let's take a look over here. Cart witnessing. Well, it has been suspended at many kingdom halls. No reason given. So what is going on with the cart witnessing? Well, let me share something with you. I mean, back if we roll the clocks back just a few years ago, the cart witnessing was going to be the biggest thing ever. We got to go back to 2000, I'd say around 2017, 2018. The cart witnessing was going to be the way that Jehovah's Witnesses were going to grow their organization. In fact, they actually even sang a song about it. Let's listen into the song. I think you'll find it fascinating. Well, just give us a second here. I know you know the cart song, right? Why can't we get the cart song to play? For some reason, we're not getting it to play, but let's see why not.
I'm just a cart.
Huh. All right, well, you know the cart song. We have a cart, and it shows the video there from the cart opening up in the garage and the witnesses wheeling it out. So that's fascinating that the witnesses really put all of their effort into this cart witnessing. But now we're learning that cart witnessing has been suspended. And many congregations, from what I gather here, are no longer sending people out in the cart work. Well, why is that? Well, one thing I got thinking, maybe the reason is they're finding out that the carts are a magnet for apostate activists. Yes, they're a target. You wheel the cart out, and then so many people have been hurt and damaged by the Watchtower that they see a cart and they're going up and they're saying things. Hey, you guys are shunning people. You guys are hiding pedophiles. So this is publicly humiliating the Jehovah's Witnesses. So that could be one of the reasons why we're seeing the cart work disengaged. Many people have been crashing these carts. Many witnesses are feeling intimidated when they wheel that out, that all of these so-called apostates or activists against the Watchtower are coming out and personally saying things to them. So the cart work, I believe, has been a disaster for them. And the door-to-door work was so much more productive. And maybe that's why they tried to, get it going again. But they're having a hard time even doing that. People don't want to go out in service, as we were saying at the outset of the program. So, this is something that I can remember. We didn't have carts when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but we did do at times like street witnessing. You'd have a bag full of magazines and you'd approach a person if you meet him on the street, and you would try to talk to him about the world conditions and generate interest. And then you could, get them to become one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But the people at the carts today, they're very stoic. They look like frozen popsicles. Really, they just stand there and they barely talk to anybody. And the instructions they have from the Watchtower is not to go out. If you have it like in a downtown area where there's people, you're not supposed to approach the people. You can only kind of talk to them when they come to you. But then I got thinking, well, maybe in some places too, the cart work is being dismantled because they may be having a hard time getting permission to use these carts in a public or a commercial space. So that also might be one of the problems with the cart work. is, some cities and communities, they want to permit, or at least you have to check in with the city or the town before you start wheeling these things out on the sidewalk. So the cart work has got a problem. In some areas, they're not using it. Boy, the whole organization, dear friends, the whole organization is just rapidly decaying. Everything they thought would work for them is not working. This has not always been the case. The Watchtower has always escaped the hatchet, so to speak. They've always been able to slip under the door and continue their work. But now we see the Watchtower in big time trouble. It's just not working like it was. So everything is just going downhill for the Watchtower, just not working. So what's the Watchtower going to do? What's the Watchtower going to do? I'll tell you what they've already been doing. They're trying to gather as much money as they possibly can. And let me tell you why. If you have a business that's getting ready to default on its loans, maybe it can't pay its payroll, maybe it can't pay its suppliers, and the company looks like it's going under. Well, what do you think the CEO does, the chief executive officer does, with a company that has no future? Their whole thoughts would be getting as much money out as they can. Grab as much as you can and run. That's what I believe the Watchtower is doing right now. They're grabbing as much money as they possibly can, and they're trying to make it look like everything is still wonderful. At the same time, the whole thing is going down. So here we have the Watchtower once again asking for money, and it's right on jw.org. And isn't it something that always around November or December, they have this site where you can go and donate, and they show a picture of an old woman who's giving her last few cents to the Watchtower. But isn't it something in November and December, this is around the year that, people give Christmas gifts, they give year-end bonuses. So the Watchtower's got their hand out once again, another attempt to get money right on their website. Give us more money. Give us more money. And this is really despicable, isn't it? And I have to say that it's pretty ridiculous when I stop and think about it. Here they are saying that give money to the organization. Give money to our organization. We need it to keep, the witness work going in the right direction. But it's ridiculous when you think Jesus. Think about Jesus here for a second. I mean, they are a religious organization, but isn't it pretty ridiculous when Jesus was on the earth, he never told his disciples or his followers to give to an organization. He always said, practice giving to one another. Not an organization, not even the temple. Practice giving to one another. That is so far removed from the Watchtower. Now, the Watchtower organization doesn't practice giving help to people who need it. They really, really don't. So, I'm just to the point that I know these guys are scandalous. I know they're corrupt. I know they're fraudulent. I don't know how much more we can say about them. But these guys really are one of the most dangerous, destructive organizations on the planet. And what they have done to people over the course of the last century is horrendous. It's horrifying. But yet they still have their hand out and they still want money. And they take advantage of the year end. They take advantage of the Christmas time. Put it up there. This is when people start donating. Isn't that disgusting? And what do they do for anybody, friends? We talk about it all the time here. They're crooks. What do they do for anybody? The answer is zero. Boy, I'll tell you what, it's just amazing to me. It's amazing to me that this organization who sees so many of their members suffering, so many of their members in dire straits, but yet they just want to keep Give me more, give me more, give me more. And it's pretty ridiculous when you stop and think about it. Right now, we know that so many people are fighting inflation. Inflation is just running out of all over the place. It's too high. I was buying butter. Have you bought butter lately? Holy mackerel. So I was going to buy some. I bought butter. But, I was buying butter just 6 months ago. Butter was like $2.50 a pound. Sometimes I could even get it for $1.99 a pound. So anyways, I went to the market basket the other night, bought a pound of butter, $3.99. $3.99 is like doubled. Is that now? Here's the Watchtower asking for money while we have inflation running rampant. We have food shortages pretty much across the world, and the Watchtower has a message: give us more money. Geez, you would think they'd say, friends, in view of the world conditions, in view.
Rick?
Yes.
Rick, it's sad too, and they're trying to say that they're not. There's about a half dozen videos out there right now, and people are recording jw.org, and you'll watch Stephen Lett with one word say, "We have never asked for money, and Jehovah will never ask for money." And then you see 10 more videos. They've got them all spliced together. Jehovah loves a cheerful giver. We want to make Jehovah happy. We want to be friends with Jehovah and Jesus. We can be good friends. And it's like they're double talking all over the place. And Rick, it's so sad to me because I have family in there, and they're literally, the visual I get is like you said, they're fleecing the flock. They're shaking these brothers upside down while they're under mind control and using the Bible as a way to do it. And the magic word is Jehovah says. I did a little video about it. Jehovah says, and those people will do anything. Here's what Jehovah says. Let's go to here, and you can find anything in the Bible. You can find where it says don't give. You can find where it says give. You can pick out anything you want, but I find it so insulting that they're double talking all over the place. And like I say, Rick, there's about 12 videos out there, and they're showing these guys double talk, which means to me they do not care less. They're manipulators, they're con artists, and they're thieves. And they're stealing from people who are poor. And the reason a lot of them are poor was because they were told not to go to school, because that was using the world to the full. And the world was Satan's world. The Satan was hurled down the world, and the devil with him. Woe for the earth. So we weren't supposed to participate. So like you said, Rick, food is going up. You can't even get a place here in Boise, Idaho, $1,700, $1,900 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. And they're fleecing the flock, selling off property, making billions, and wanting more. Not just, saying, let's just sell it off and clean it up. They're squeezing them, shaking them for every dime. And this is so sad, Rick. It's so sad to watch. It's so sad to think my brother's still in there, my oldest brother. He's a presiding overseer. He's got about 4 homes. And to think that Watchtower, while he's under hypnosis, while he's under their manipulation, mind control, that they can use that magic word, Jehovah says, and maybe squeeze a house or 2 out of him that his son won't get. It's really sad to watch your brothers being fleeced.
Well said, Dan.
Well,
yeah. Can I say, Rick?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, just from what Dan said, he said that they're fleecing the flock, and that is so true. But the thing is, the flock's getting smaller. But with this media center, they're going to be fleecing the outside world. I can just imagine them making videos on how they go into these countries that have had a tornado, and they're building people's houses, and they're giving of their time. And I can just imagine them making it as neutral as they can, putting it on a big media center like this. And what do people do when they see charities helping people in these areas? They donate. They don't care what organization's doing it. If they can see organizations building people's houses when it's been blown away by the wind, or been covered in a mudslide, or lost in an earthquake, or something like that, and then they see a program where all these people are going, they're helping, it's all free. I can see them doing it. I can see them getting the money now from outside. But this media center's up and running, it's going to be a money-making machine for them.
Oh, Steve, you're 100% right. It's unbelievable, isn't it? These guys, but eventually they're going to be caught. Eventually, they're going to be caught, and their days are numbered. And whether they even get this media center built, I'm going to really be watching that closely to see if it even happens. Thank you, Steve, for calling in. Always good to hear from you. I know it's late over there in the United Kingdom. But anyways, I don't know if you caught it or not, but every month they do these broadcasting from the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses. So the November 2022, there's a brother on there. His name is Brother William Turner Jr. And I got watching it on JW Broadcasting, and it has to deal with this brother. He's giving a talk about waiting patiently on Jehovah. It gets just sickening after a while. How long, many of us were getting into our 60s, 70s, 80s. How long really, when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, were we patiently waiting on Jehovah? I can remember District Overseer back in the 1960s, and he stood up in the arena and he said, "Friends, take a look at this pencil. Look at this pencil. Do you know where we are?" He held the pencil up. I got a pencil here. I want to show you on YouTube. So he's holding this pencil up. He says, "Friends, do you know where we are in the mainstream of time with this pencil?" He says, "We are right here." And he's pointing right to the tip. He says, "That's it. Armageddon any day now. That's where we are." So how long have we been waiting patiently? Let's roll the clock back to the 1960s. Geez, that's 50 years ago. More than that. More than 50 years ago. And, we've been all waiting patiently. Where is it? And, they keep this foolishness coming forth. Wait on Jehovah. And then what they were saying, when I was listening to this JW Broadcasting, what they were saying in it, this particular brother giving the talk, he says, "Isn't it great that Jehovah held off? And look at all the people that were saved." He says, because of the fact that Jehovah was patient, and he could have killed them all at Armageddon years ago. But, that I got thinking about it. I did a little bit of math on that. So if Armageddon came, if Jehovah wasn't patient, as this brother was saying, and let's just suppose that Armageddon had come in 1914, it would have been better for humanity. If Armageddon came in 1914, well, 1.5 billion people would have been killed. See, they would have been people who weren't Jehovah's Witnesses. So now that Jehovah has waited patiently for more than 100 years, here we are in the year 2022, because Jehovah's waited patiently to bring Armageddon about. Now when he destroys everyone that's not a Jehovah's Witness, guess what? 8 billion people are going to be destroyed. So it would have been better if Jehovah brought Armageddon about in 1914. Only 1.5 billion people would have been destroyed. But if he brought Armageddon now, 8 billion would be. Well, what is real? Think about that. Think about that. Everyone who's not a Jehovah's Witness, according to them, is going to die. How many of us listening to this program have had our mothers, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our fathers, our uncles, all of our relatives? How many of us have had all of these people die of old age in the so-called truth? But they want the witnesses to have more patience. Come on, Watchtower. Geez, how much can a person take? How much can a person really? How much patience do you need? If someone's stringing you along, that's the term that they would use. That's the term that they would use. And if someone owed you some money, for example, well, don't worry. Don't worry. I'm going to get it to you. I'm going to get it to you. I'm going to get it to you. I mean, at some point you say, well, come on, you're going to do it. Well, it's the same thing here. The Watchtower has been stringing people along. And, you say, well, how is it that people have stayed in it? And, many, as we mentioned earlier, the young ones are leaving, the new generation, the Gen Zs, they're getting up and packing their bags. But you say, well, why do people stay in the Watchtower? The Watchtower's lied to them. Why are they staying in? Well, I come up with a number of reasons. And the reasons are, there's a thing called sunk cost. Have you ever heard of that term? It's called sunk cost. And what it has to do with is there's many people that are just remaining in the. It's a business term. In fact, I'm trying to get to our 9:30 program here, and I can read you something that I wanted to bring up concerning the sunk cost. Many Jehovah's Witnesses are not leaving. They want to stay in the Watchtower because they put so much time and effort into all of this. It's saying, geez, I can't leave now. I put too much into all of this. So that's one reason it's called sunk cost. It's an accounting term. And what the term basically means, it's an economic term. And what it is, it's in economics and business, sunk cost is a cost that has already been incurred and cannot be recovered. So, okay, so you spent, let's just use an example here. Let's use the Ramapo building complex up there as a decision that's made. Let's suppose they went forth with it and spent $500 million. And now they're realizing they're not going to be able to get it back no matter what they do. Well, there's many witnesses kind of feeling the same way. They put so much into the organization, many, many years. They've donated money. They put time going out in service, time going to the meeting. They put everything they had into the Watchtower, 50, 60 years. And now they're saying, well, geez, I can't stop now. It might be right around the corner. Maybe Armageddon is right around the corner. So that's one way of looking at it. Or even another illustration. Suppose that there's a person who would buy lotto tickets every day. He'd buy lotto tickets. He never won, but he keeps buying them. So he's been doing this for 40, 50 years. So you say, geez, why don't you stop buying lotto tickets? You're not making any money. The person would say, yeah, but this might be the day that I do. So it's hard for people to give up on these things. So it's hard for witnesses to get up and pack their bags. They put so much into it. They don't know what to do. And there's just many, too, that, and I don't know if you guys ever witnessed this or not, but, there's so many Jehovah's Witnesses that I knew when I was in the organization that they put blinders on. As I was wiggling my way loose and I tried to explain some of the things I was learning to other Jehovah's Witnesses, well, they would put blinders on. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to see it. But, in fact, I know of so many people that were like that. They just didn't want to hear the real truth. The truth was bothering them. But there's many reasons why they're still in, but there are many that are getting out and packing their bags. So what I wanted to discuss now, and I think you guys might kind of agree with me on this, that it's very obvious to me and to you that the Watchtower religion has been spiraling down now for years. Yes, they have. And here we are in the year 2022. And, I remember when I first started seeing the dismantling of the Watchtower. Do you remember the book studies, the Tuesday night book studies? Well, they were canceled, and they were canceled right around the year 2000, right around there, the late 90s. And then they started not writing as many books. So the Watchtower started being reduced from 32 pages to now 16 pages. The yearbooks, they weren't being printed anymore. The door-to-door work was shut down. Kingdom halls were canceled in meetings all over the world because of COVID. And hundreds of kingdom halls all around the world are being sold off. And many, many skeletons are coming out of the closet with child sex abuse. So we're seeing that It's obvious. This religion has been going down for years. You are seeing in slow motion the complete demise of the Watchtower religion. Well, they claimed it's God's only channel, and now Jehovah's Witnesses know it would be presumptuous to believe that the Watchtower is the only channel that God uses on earth. It would be presumptuous. Many of them have got to be waking up and smelling the coffee. And when you think about it, when you go to a Jehovah's Witness and you try to even just question a witness or talk with a witness to share some thoughts, it's like you get the same response that a criminal would have while he's being caught in the act. If you went to a Jehovah's Witness and said, Mr. and Mrs. Witness, I want to share something with you. I want to talk to you about the United Nations and Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, they're going to look at you like they're a criminal that has been caught in the act. They're going to show panic, aggression, and utter denial. That's what the witnesses do. And that's very aggravating. That's what really aggravated me the most when I was getting out of the Jehovah's Witnesses. At first, I was angry. Yeah, I was, because I gave my time, my money, all of my life's resources and energy to an organization. And then I found out it's corrupt and fraudulent and not teaching the truth. So, that really was something that created anger. But I got over the anger. I'm not angry anymore. And then the next emotion that I experienced was frustration. I wanted to go to the witnesses. I wanted to go to my relatives who were witnesses. I wanted to tell them what was going on behind the curtains. They wouldn't listen. They would stop up their ears and put their hands up. Stop. I don't want to hear it. So I'm trying to give them information. They wouldn't take it. So it's very, very frustrating. But, I feel that deep down right now, and we talk about the PMOs. We talk about those that are physically in and mentally out. But I believe there's more of those than you think. And I've always had the feeling, even when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, into it big time, there was a certain vibe, a certain deep down feeling that I got. And I knew that many of the witnesses, even that I was sitting next to in the Kingdom Hall, I knew deep down they didn't believe this. I knew they knew something is up, but they wouldn't share it with me because I was feeling the same things. Did you ever experience that? When you were full-fledged witness, did you feel that some of the people in the Kingdom Hall were just, they didn't really believe this? Did you ever get that feeling deep down that they knew something was up? I'd like to hear from you on that. Did you experience that in your Kingdom Hall? Did you think that everybody was so loyal? Were there a few people that you said, hey, something's wrong here? These people aren't believing everything. So it's becoming more and more apparent that there are more and more people that are stepping forward, or at least believing something is not right in the Watchtower. And their intelligence enough to realize the craziness that's coming out of the mouths of the governing body as they come forth with these Watchtower broadcasts. But some will never leave. Some will never leave for whatever reason it would be. But there are many leaving right now. There is a mass exodus. And I'm so glad that we're seeing so many packing their bags. And as we said earlier, the younger ones, the Gen Zs, they're done. They've had it with the Watchtower. They want their freedom. They don't want the Watchtower breathing down their back. So what do you think? What do you think? I want to know what you think. Do you think that the Watchtower is in a free fall right now? Do you think that there's more PMOs than we could ever believe? Did you witness this even years ago? Were there people in your congregation that were acting as though they don't believe this? What do you think? Don't be strangers.
Well, Rick.
Yeah. Go ahead. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, back when I was in, a lot of people were just in fear to say anything, you know, and I think a lot of people's feelings were hid. And today it's just, you know, they're finding out that, you know, there's been a lot of lies have been told to us, and that's why kingdom halls are getting empty now. So.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what's happening. And there's still people that, well, we're going to have a couple coming on here on the next program coming up here on the 6 screens tonight. We're going to have another couple come on. They're going to talk with us, Fran and Joe, and they basically have been out for less than a year, but they're going to be explaining to people how it is being a PMO and what they're trying to do to alert others. So they'll be coming on later on tonight. So we're looking forward to that. But this, what, you know, friends, this is it. I mean, I say it all the time. You've heard me say the monkey died, the circus is over. And it is. Where is the Watchtower going from here? Where can they go? This Ramapo, as we just discussed, without that being built, there's no future. There's no future at all. It'll be a dead organization within 5 or 6 years. And the amount of people coming out of it. Does anybody out there get on this Reddit forum? That's where ex-witnesses write and post. When I got on that back in around the year 2000, there was only 7,000 ex-witnesses writing in there. There's 80,000 now, 80,000. I checked it today. So what's causing that? These are people getting out. And these are just on that forum. On here, I can see it. We have so many people calling in here as of late. New ones and saying, that's it.
Hello, Rick?
We've had enough. Yes, go ahead, Martha.
Oh, I just wanted to let you know I spoke to Allison today. Ha-ha! Remember, she used to run the no-nonsense group before she turned it over
to
you, me, and Randy?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, she's a
So
nice...
I just wanted to give you a heads up that she's doing it great. She's...
You there? Well,
I'm here.
Okay, so she's doing great. So what's she doing? I mean, the last I heard from Allison is she was thinking about perhaps even going back in.
No. What a joke. No. I think that was a ploy. She's very busy. She's raising a grandchild, and that's keeping her busy. She's on her a beautiful reclamation with Christianity and a relationship with Christ. So, you know, that's kind of where it's going, and trying to navigate those waters, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah, I do. Well, that's good. She's getting heading in the right direction. So that's wonderful. So how'd you get a hold of her? Did you write her on email or something?
She reached out to me. We've always stayed in touch. Several times. We're very close friends. So, you know, it was almost a natural that I would be a part of the continuing no-nonsense saga.
Well, that no nonsense. In fact, that's a good time to bring it up. Friends, if you are listening into the program tonight, why don't you join some of the Facebook groups that can help you, like No Nonsense Jehovah's Witnesses, or 6 Screens of the Watchtower even, or Canadian Jehovah's Witnesses. There's so many out there. Join them. U.S. Jehovah's Witnesses. And well, what's the one you work with Bob Gray? Mention that one, Mia.
Jehovah's Witnesses Then and Now, and oh my goodness, all you have to do is go on Facebook. There are so many of them, and normally what we do is on No Nonsense and at the other groups, there's a section of the it's in the homepage, but there's a place where we recommend other groups. You know, we're not about just sequestering everyone onto one group. We advertise other groups that may have special interests or focus more in on your needs within our groups and share that. So yeah, and I always notice, Rick, that after our your weekend programs, that I get a ton of new requests for people wanting to join the groups. So it's marvelous what you're doing.
Yeah, in fact, even Six Screens is growing like crazy too. And so, yeah, join some of these Facebook groups, friends. It can really help you. There's a number of them out there. So go ahead and do that. And, when there's if you really, here's the thing I want to just talk to you guys. If you're on Facebook and you write in there, when you see something good, share it. If you see a good post, or maybe even like the Six Screens program tonight, share it. Man, that will go. You know what that does? For example, if you have 3,000 friends on Facebook and you share what you like here, say you like this program here tonight on Facebook, and you share it, that goes to 3,000 people. I've advertised on Facebook before. It's not that cheap, but it's so much easier if you just share it. If I see something really good, I share it. Don't be afraid to share it. It doesn't cost you anything. And get the word out. So go ahead and like us and share it and put the word out. This is a unique platform here where people can hear. You're hearing Mia T. She's calling in from South Carolina. You've heard, 25, 30 people calling in from all over the world tonight. So, let's get this network really working. This is a formidable force in really exposing the Watchtower organization. So let's all work together. Share these, even on YouTube. You get on YouTube and you find a really good YouTube video, and so many good ex-witnesses are doing great videos. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to it. Get the algorithms working. Let's get this thing working, friends. We can all work together to down this evil organization. Well, always good to hear from you, Mia.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hello?
Let's go with Debbie first. Go ahead, Debbie.
You were asking, or you were talking about what would be the future of the. Have they already turned down and stopped the Ramapo project completely?
Nobody's talking about it. There's nothing going on. There's no building going on. I mean, they have been talking about this for months, and all of a sudden it's gone mute. Nobody's saying a thing. So I don't know what's going on.
Well, you know what? I got to thinking about, how we were raised talking about the new order, the new system of things. Well, the world seems to be headed that way, and it's talking about, everybody having an income, a basic living income, and all the money going to cryptic coins and all that stuff, or cryptic, I don't even know how that stuff works. But anyway, and then a one world religion. It might not be the end of Watchtower. It might be the beginning of a new satanic religion. I mean, not that I'm going to bash Muslims or anything, but right now I think the Muslims are the fastest growing religion in the world. And it's big here in America too. And they're capable, of, they've always said that they were going to spread it worldwide. But, there's so many things leading up to this new world order that they're talking about. And that's all we were raised to think about. So, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think they're going to be part of this new world order that's going on around the world.
Well, Debbie,
what do you think about that?
I'm glad.
In my head.
Well, I'm going to tell you, what you're touching on here, Debbie, is something I thought about. But of course, it's just conjecture. But you're smart picking up on this. They have been promulgating this idea of a new world order for as long as I can remember. the New World Society, whatever you want to call it. But what you just brought up, I was going to bring it up a couple weeks ago, but I said no, it sounds too far out there. But there is going to be, according to what we're all understanding, the whole world is coming under this new reset, and not being conspiratorial here, folks. Please just follow me through. We know that in order for this world to function, there has to be a one world coin, money, one world money, because of the exchanges and all of that. It makes it so hard for countries to do business with one another. So there's going to be a one world money, whatever it would be, who knows, probably some type of a cryptocurrency sponsored by the government. And also we know that there's going to be a one world religion. In order to bring people on the same page, everyone's going to be of one thought. So where Debbie was just mentioning the Watchtower, they very well could feed into this arrangement, that maybe this mega center. Now, don't take this to the bank and cash it, because it's only conjecture. But this big, gigantic, multimedia center, as big as Warner Brothers Studios and Disney Studios, it's huge. I'm thinking, does a Watchtower need this, or is this perhaps a center for the New World religion? Think about it. I mean, but don't.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. And that might be going quiet for a reason. Because they don't want people to find out what they're really up to.
Well, I thought about it, Debbie, and I didn't mention it, but I'm glad you brought it up. So I'm gonna make you the.
I've been thinking it for a long time. I just didn't say anything.
Well, you brought it up, so I'm going to put the blame on you. But I was.
Go ahead.
I was thinking the same thing, but we don't know. I mean, these guys are good at being master manipulators. These guys are good at mind control, and maybe for years the government has used the Watchtower to be able to see if they can pull some of this stuff off and control people's minds without using guns or weapons or anything like that. They just do it automatic by being mind controlled. So this whole thing could really.
I thought maybe they were an experimental group for that.
Yeah.
This time.
So we don't know, and I know there's people listening in. Come on, Rick and Debbie, you guys are sounding like a couple of kooks. But I'm just, hey, look you got to put some feelers out there. There's just too many things. You know how conspiracies start, Debbie? Conspiracies start when people don't tell you the truth. That's how conspiracies start. Then you start wondering, well, it's even in the family. Gee, why isn't my brother-in-law talking to me? Does he have something on me? In other words, that's how things start. So if you're truthful with people,
well, it's conjecture, like you said.
Right.
It's just a thought. I'm not putting it out there as the truth by any means, because I have no proof that it's the truth. It's just things that you connect the dots, and little by little you're building a puzzle, just like that thing that went around the world for a while, and certain things that got done, and now it's the criminals that started it all, like that doctor starts with an F, is getting, and
are you talking
Center for Disease Control?
Yeah,
they're getting away with not being criminally prosecuted.
Well, absolutely.
Or do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yes. Well, Debbie, that's good. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you for weighing. Well, I give you gold star. I mean, you were willing to jump out with that. And Jimmy Bell, he'll be back on with us here in about 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm sure he has a lot to talk about. In fact, I've been in contact with him. He says, Rick, I'm waiting to come back to do the big picture. And he's got so much to share with us now that the elections are over. So I'm looking forward to what he has to say. But Debbie, you get a gold star tonight. I give our good friend Debbie from Nebraska the gold star. Good girl. Thank you, Deborah. Good.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Rick,
yes.
Allowed to say those things that I was just talking about?
Yeah.
That's why I said that thing.
All right. Well, let's see what other people have to say about it, because I'm sure they want to talk about it. Thank you, Debbie. All right, go ahead. You're on with us.
Okay.
We got a
Hello?
few. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Rick, this is Constance.
Yes, Constance.
I was going to say, hi, dear. I was just going to say it's very interesting because I just saw some information where the current Roman Catholic Pope met with several world religious leaders, and he was up on the mountain where Moses was up there, and he received Moses received the 10 Commandments. I can't remember the exact name of the mountain, but they were up there, the Roman Catholic Pope and all these world religious leaders, for the purpose of creating a new set of 10 Commandments. So yeah, it's in harmony with what Debbie's saying, because they're all part of the New World Order. They really, really are. So very interesting. When you start looking at political events that are going on, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out, that it's all connected together. And the other thing, Rick, I wanted to say with regards to Watchtower, I went to a COVID Con conference, and yeah, it was called COVID Con, like the big con job, with all these jabs. Well, it makes you wonder why Watchtower was pushing the agenda for everybody to get a jab. I mean, they've never done that before. Bill Gates's agenda was to depopulate the world. So anyway, that was sort of interesting. And I know there are people that have come on the show saying, wait a minute, this really woke me up with regards to Watchtower, because why are they pushing these jabs for all the Bethelites and everybody else? Well, they have stock. They have stock in Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and all that. Just follow the money trail. And the other thing, Rick, I wanted to say is Watchtower was closed down for 2 years because of COVID, while most churches were only closed down for 1 year. And so you think, well, what was that all about? And Watchtower was always saying, oh, it's to protect the brothers and sisters from COVID. No, it wasn't. That was a lie. Watchtower was getting money from the federal government for as long as they were closed down. And that was brought up at this COVID Con conference that I went to. So most churches were closed down for 1 year, but Watchtower was closed down for 2 because they were following the money trail. They were getting paid to be closed down, and they lied to everybody and said it was because of COVID, trying to protect everyone. No, they were protecting their own pocketbooks. So thank you, Rick.
Well, you're welcome, Constance. Always good to hear from you. Yeah, I think.
Can I say one more thing?
Go ahead.
When COVID came out, when it was exposed, I looked at the word COVID, and I like to do anagrams, and I told my daughter, I said, you know what? That stands, see, Certificate of Vaccination ID. And I said, they're going to make everybody carry identification saying they've got that stupid freaking shot. Use my language.
Yeah.
But that's tame. But anyway, I just, and I wouldn't get it because the stuff that was in it, if you knew everything, and then if you went on theirs, the vaccination adverse effects place online. And the thing is, they admitted that COVID was, what was it, only a point something %. It wasn't even as dangerous as the flu. Way more people die every year from the flu. That
yeah, no, we can't get too deep into this because YouTube is kind of.
Okay, I'll be quiet now. Then I'll stop.
Kind of monitoring it, so we gotta. I mean, I'd like to, but if we're just on the other platforms, but we're on YouTube, they get very sticklish about it. But thank you, Debbie, anyways, for bringing that up. But don't you guys look, and you guys, we have a very smart audience here. That I, in the 16 years of doing this program, I have to commend you all. we have some very, very smart people that comment here on our commenting with YouTube and on Facebook and dialing in. So we're glad to have smart people. But I just want you to think of something. We're all friends here, right? We're all in the same boat. We've all came out of a cult. I just want you to stop and scratch your head, just sit back, relax. Don't you feel something in the air right now? Or is it just me? Don't you feel like something really is not right? Now, I'm not going to get, I'm not even going to get political. This is not a political statement I'm making, but there's just some uneasiness. I go to the store. My poor wife, she's had some issues with health. So I go to the store and, I kind of do it almost on a daily basis because it gets me out and walk around and gives me a chance to stop in after work and do things. And I'll walk through the store, but I'm looking at people buying groceries. There's something even odd with that. I mean, unless I'm reading more into it, sometimes your mind can do that. But I'm watching what people are buying. They're buying strange things. Now, there's still people buying Fritos and corn chips and candy bars, but there's a lot of people buying canned vegetables, beans. They're buying rice. They're buying pasta. And I'm saying, gee, why? I mean, do they need that much of it? I mean, I'm seeing, full baskets of this. And in many cases, the shelves are even being emptied. Are people storing food? Are they thinking something's up? I mean, we keep hearing that there's going to be no diesel. I mean, these aren't pleasant feelings people are getting. There's going to be no diesel. We're talking about up here in Boston, we're going to have the highest, we're going to have rolling blackouts. They've been saying this on the news. They had a guy from New England Energy come on the other day and say that our price for heating our homes and electricity is going to like double. That's going to put a real pinch on people. So I don't think that we can all just sit here and say, oh, no, there's nothing wrong. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming anybody here. I'm not using the blame game. But just being a person living under the auspices of this whole thing, you got to start seeing something's going on. Do you feel that way?
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel it, and we see it in our stores, too. A lot of people are stocking up. We saw people in there the other day with cases of canned food. And it's during the week, too. It's not only because we have our own business, so we'll go Monday, Tuesday, and the stores are packed. And people are storing up, and there is something in the air. The other day, I went by a gas station, and the semi-trucks were on the side where the cars go for diesel. And I'm like, are they out of diesel? And I don't think they were because I circled back and there were 2 tankers filling up. But I thought that was an interesting, I don't know if it was a strategy by the truckers, but they were on the side where the cars were. And I was like, whoa, I've never seen that before. So interesting things are happening. And I believe there is something in the air, Rick. I really do. I have to agree with you. And like I said, man, the stores are packed all during the week. It's like every day you go in there, it's like, what in the heck is going on? Did somebody just turn on an alarm or, is it Facebook? But I think people know there's something in the air, Rick.
Well, Dan, let me ask you this. When's the last time you paid $7 for a loaf of bread?
No. Wow, long time. Never.
Well,
but it's going up. I cannot believe you, Rick. We used to be able to go to the store for $150 and fill the shopping cart. They have a place called Winco here. And now we went there the other day and I said, okay, Angela, let's just take a guess. What do you think? 250, 280, 400. We've had 2 $400 shopping. It's just me and Angela. It isn't like we're buying all kinds of stuff. We buy a few things, we store up a few things, not like going crazy. But the prices, it's like, whoa, that's $8. It used to be 75 cents. Canned food, $1.25 that used to be 45 cents. I'm like, what on? I bought some Angela's like, let's replenish the chili beans. I made some chili the other day, and we went down there and I bought $75 of worth of beans or something. It was like a buck a can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was crazy. You know?
Well,
so anyway.
Well, Dan, the other day, well, it's about 2 weeks ago, I took Susan to the dentist, and I says, "Hey, Susan, let's go." She loves fish. She loves fish up here in New England. So I said, "Susan, let's go get a piece of fish." And I didn't want to go to a big restaurant or anything. I says, "Well, there's a sub shop that I used to do business with. Let's go there and let's get a fish dinner for you." So I walked in there and I said to the person, I said, "Gee," I said, "you guys have haddock, fried haddock?" "Oh yeah, we have that." I said, "Well, gee, okay, I'll get my wife. She's in the car. I'll bring her in here." So I went out, I got her. We walked in, and the woman says to me, "Sir," she says, "you might just want to buy one of these. It's expensive, but," she says, "we'll give you plenty of it so the two of you can eat." So I didn't even ask her what the bill would be. I just says, "Well, she wanted that." So I says, just give me a haddock dinner, one haddock dinner. How much you think it was?
Oh my God. I don't know, $45. I'm probably high.
36
not that much.
$36.
Oh my God.
No, I'm serious. Just a year ago, 18 months ago, you could get the same plate for $9. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like that everywhere, Rick. I wanted to comment too one time, Rick, just a short comment about this mind control. This is some bad stuff that's going on with the Watchtower. I hate to say government's behind it, but I'm wondering if Watchtower is one big experiment. The reason I say that, Rick, is I look at my relatives online, and they're vegetables. I'm serious. I'm not exaggerating. They are vegetables. And, I look in their eyes or I try to say something to them. They just stare off into the distance. Now, these are people that have been in there a long time, that have been told, what they see isn't what they see. Right is left, dark is light, light is dark. They're fried, Rick. They're fried. And I think, God, is this some big government program? I mean, millions are people being led around without any ability to reason. I had a guy write me on YouTube the other day, and he's like, "How dare you, Dan, call us spiritists? How dare you say Watchtower has a direct line, a spirit line?" And I said, they said they had the spirit line. They said they give you spiritual food at the proper time. What is spiritual food? Where does it come from? Why are they the only ones who dispense it? They are the medium. They are the mediator. They are the channel. And so I couldn't reason with this guy. He just wanted to get all defensive. And I'm like, my God, I said, where is all the spiritual food at the proper time? It's in the dumpster. It's been recycled. The Paradise book, the Revelation book, 7 or 80 years from 1914, 75 prophecy, generation prophecy, overlapping. I goes, where is it all? And Rick, they have no ability because their minds have been told, we got new light. And actually the light just went out. They've been so mind messed up. They have no ability whatsoever. And I feel sorry for my brother. He's gone. His mind is gone. Two of my brother's minds are gone. They stole my mother's mind. My mother wheeling down a chair, screaming to the top of her lungs, "Jehovah's going to kill me. Jehovah's going to kill me." It's the last words I heard from my mother before she died. She was looking up at me with big cataracts on her eyes. And I said, "Mom, why are you saying that?" She says, "I haven't made the meeting, Dan." And I just looked at her. I'm gonna do a post, and it's gonna have a picture of my mother before she died, and with a little candle in front of it, saying, "This is what she said. Jehovah's gonna kill me," were her last words. These people that have been in there a long time are mentally ill, and it breaks my heart. My brother, when I saw him, that's why I became a person that speaks about this. I forget, my mind is blank right now, but an apostate or whatever you call it, an advocate for truth. I saw my brother. He was gone. There was nobody there. I was looking at him going, Doug, look at me. It took him 2 hours to come to a restaurant. I was just going through Missouri. I was like, Doug, it's your brother Dan. And he finally looked up with a very slow voice, very slow mind. He goes, "Hey, Danny." And I thought, oh my God. I said, "Watchtower, I am coming after your ass. You got my dad, you got my mother. My dad died of shame. My mom died of fear. my oldest brother's waiting for the end to come so he can see his daughters, because they promised him he's going to see his daughters. He had 2 daughters die. My other brother's in some kind of halfway house. Anyway, Rick, I'll cut it short. I know you got to go to another channel, but man, this mind control and what they've done to people's minds and how they've crippled people is I just don't know how anybody can continue to enable governing body to keep going, to keep lying for them with all this information out there. Anyway, that's it, Rick.
Well, no, that's good. No, I really feel bad, Dan. That's a terrible thing, and your mother, because she's under the control of the Watchtower, she said these things. My mother too. She basically never said that, but I know she was thinking it, and she died going to a grave without even talking to me. So it is. In fact, you mentioned something that got me thinking. There is some type of, maybe it's a government project, but something. But the Watchtower has mastered it. They're very good at it.
Yeah.
They're able to get people. Just think of it. Even we, Dan, you when you were Jehovah's Witness, you're using your own gas. You're spending money to get to the Kingdom Hall. You're giving all the money you're bringing into the Watchtower on your own dime. They don't give you a penny for anything.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's weird, Rick, to think of. You're right. There are masters of illusion. Satan was a master craftsman. I mean, to get the people to build these halls and to have them still wanting to build. I mean, after they watch these halls turn into marijuana clinics, churches, I mean, you get done working all night long on a Kingdom Hall, and in the morning they dedicate it to Jehovah. We're Jehovah's Witnesses, and they sing this song, and we're all on the floor crying and tears. Look what we built for Jehovah. And then you find out they furthered Christianity, the very thing they told you could never walk into for a wedding or go in and take a piss. I mean, they're selling it to them and promoting their religion. I mean, they can start tomorrow. If they sell a Kingdom Hall to a church can have an activity in it right, a week from then. You know what I mean? Once they close, they're in business. They're promoting Christianity. And Rick, it's not one. There's hundreds of halls being sold to churches. These guys are conscienceless, and the people still follow them. No ability to think. Rick, I know I'm talking too much. No ability to think for themselves. It's a shame that their brains are gone. Their mind, their thinking ability, they're absolute programs, Rick, programmed by Watchtower.
Well, you're right. Now, Dan, we got a bunch of people asking in YouTube. I'm reading some of the comments. They want to ask you where you're going to make that post. That post you talked about with your mom. So will that be on your channel or on your Facebook page?
Yeah. It'll be on Life After Religion. And I'm going to do a little candle thing because it was horrible, Rick. It really was horrible. When I went down to Michigan, I'm going to tell you something. It was like a bomb went off. It was like a bomb went off. And it was like my mom's ears were blown. She was there blown up like a balloon. Man, I'm sorry.
Praying for you, brother.
She was a waste. She was a vegetable. She was a waste. She was laying there wasted. My dad died of shame. My brother. They're all screwed, man. Somehow, man, Watchtower was able, because of the Bible, because of the way they manipulate the Bible, because of the way, they say this is Jehovah. This is, like I said, Jehovah says is the magic word. Jehovah says is the magic wand. They can have those people do anything. Jehovah says. And so, once they got them, once you give your life over, once you make that obligation to Watchtower that they are the medium, they are the faithful and discreet slave. Once you give your mind over to men, you're cursed. And I believe they were cursed. And when I saw them, that's how I became an advocate. When I saw my brother, I hired a guy. I hired a guy to film me. I made 120 videos. I said, they will not get any more of my family. And, I was wrong. They still got him. One of them got out. My youngest brother got out. And a whole lot of other people have gotten out. But when I saw my brother, how messed up he was, I said, you guys, you got my mother. You got my dad. You got my oldest brother. You got my third oldest brother, Phil. You know what I mean? When I see him, he's Jehovah's going to kill you. He looks like death. I saw a picture of him the other day, and I'm going to put that picture on the video too. He looked like he's dying. He's my younger freaking brother. He looks like death. I go, oh my God, that's my brother Phil. And my brother Doug looks just as crazy. And I thought, this is what happens a long time when you lose yourself, when you let men operate your kingdom, your throne, your inner temple, which belongs to God. When you say, men, you can be a mediator. And I had this guy today arguing with me when I was on the phone. He was arguing with me, don't say that Watchtower's a medium. Well, they said that they kicked Jesus out. I mean, they said Jesus appointed them over all their belongings. Jesus appointed them over all his belongings. No more mediator. They're the ones. And so anyway, I didn't mean to get all emotional, Rick. It blew me away. And so I'm going to do that because I want people to know what my mom looked like from a beautiful model. My dad was a beautiful model. These guys were like Hollywood actors before they came in there. But over time, the mental illness, losing themselves, waiting on Watchtower, putting their lives on hold, putting their health on hold, putting their diet on hold, not saving any money. 75, it was going to be all over. They let themselves go. And my dad got to be almost 500 pounds. My mother was 4'11" and almost 300 pounds. And she was schizophrenic. And it was a mess to see her, to hear her dying with her last breath is Watchtower programming, to see that program run and not be able to see my mother and to just watch her like that, was just broke my heart. So I'm forever, someone who's gonna protest. I'm gonna be one that speaks to this till the day I die. And people say, Dan, you're too upset. Dan, you're too passionate. You know what? I got a very successful life, a beautiful wife, a nice home. I have a nice business. I have several businesses. I paint. I do art. I have lots of things. But I am passionate. And I think Jesus was passionate about falsehood. He said, you whitewash graves, you hypocrites, you offspring, you vipers, get behind me, Satan. That's my voice, too, by the way. So anyway, Rick.
Well, anyway, they love you on here, Dan, and they're all agreeing with you. You have passion, and they don't want you to ever give in, up or out. Thank you, Dan, for sharing those thoughts. Thank you.
Hey, Rick, it's Michael.
Yes, Michael.
Hey, how you doing, Rick?
I'm good.
It's amazing you're talking about this subject today about building kingdom halls, because I just went through. That's what I used to do. And I went through my old neighborhood where me and my father built 3 kingdom halls in that area. And I was just reminiscent today. 2 of them were sold to a Baptist church. And then the one I came by that was down the street from where I grew up, there were people out working in the yard. And I just went up and asked the guy if he was a Jehovah's Witness. And he said, yes, we're out there working. I said, are you aware of all the pedophilia that's going on in this organization? Have you heard anything about that? And he just put his head down, and I said, and he didn't even know Jeffrey Jackson. I asked him if he heard Jeffrey Jackson's testimony in the Australian Royal Commission. He didn't even know who he was. And it was that look that Dan was talking about, that stare away. Yeah, that's what the guy gave me. I couldn't believe it.
No, in fact, it's hard. It's hard to believe, Michael. It's hard to believe. Yeah. Even the story Dan just told, that's very hard for people to believe. That's why we can come on here on a Saturday night. We all get it. We all understand it. People who might not have ever been involved with this organization, they say, well, geez, just get over it. No, you can't. How can a man like Dan get over his mother's last words that you're going to die? You're going to die. Geez, how can you? How can people? You can't. So you can never give in, up or out. I feel the same way. I'm not giving up. I don't have a soft spot from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet for the Watchtower organization. I'll tell you.
I do still have some friends that are elders, and I talk to them, and we're respectful with each other. But there is, and I try to be loving to everybody. But when I got up to introduce my children at my mother's funeral, and when all the witnesses walked out, I can't get that out of my mind just yet. And that's been about 10 years ago. But that's a tough one for me to get out.
Well, it is.
But I try to be loving.
Well, I can tell you're a loving guy, Mike, and you're trying to help. Look, we're not trying to hurt the Jehovah's Witnesses. We're trying to help them. But even you stopping there today, you weren't doing that to rub anything in. You were trying to help these
No,
people.
I wasn't.
Jeez,
I was trying to make them aware
yeah,
about the kids. I said, it's about the kids.
yeah. Well, there you go, Michael.
And,
well, by the way, too,
yeah,
you're coming
well,
on. You wrote me an email. It's not tomorrow, but it's next week.
well, I was ready for tomorrow, but I'll be there. I'll be ready next week too.
Okay, it's next week on the 20th. Yeah, maybe it was my mistake. So, anyways, looking forward to you on the 20th. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rick. I'll see you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Steve again.
Yes, Steve.
Listen, yeah, it's getting pretty late here, so I'm going to hit the sack after this. But I just want to say something because I know that this program is recorded on YouTube because I used to listen to it before I listened live. I used to listen to it on YouTube, and I think it's. I just want to say something to anybody that's listening to this that maybe is thinking about leaving or perhaps thinking about studying the Jehovah's Witnesses. If you've been listening for any amount of time tonight, you'll hear real people. Or you've heard real people talking about real experiences. You've heard about people with medical problems, which has been kicked off because of their indoctrination in the Watchtower. You just heard a testimony of a very passionate person who's had some very awful things happen to him. And I want anybody that's listening to really think about that. It's real people. This is reality. Forget what you see on JW.org about all these lovely people sitting around a table smiling and laughing. That's propaganda. This is reality. And this is what's happening to people. And this is what this organization is causing people to become. And this is the mind control results of being in this organization. This is the real thing. This is not apostasy. This is the real thing. And you need to listen to it. And, like I said, if you're thinking about joining, do not join. Do not join because it won't just be you. It'll affect your entire family. And it'll affect everybody around you, and it'll affect you for the rest of your life. So I just wanted to say that, Rick. Thanks a lot for listening to me, and I'm going to bed now. Thanks for the show.
Well, thank you, Steve. Always glad to have you calling in. We really appreciate listening to you, and you have a good night. And thank you very much for saying what you just did. That is so much of a great statement because that's the truth. These are real stories, real people. Thank you. Well, we have got we got a few minutes to go. We got about 10 minutes, and then we're going to be going to good friend Gail in Houston, Texas. She's got a program called After the Storm. But, here's a good time right now. If there's anyone out there listening that would like to just come on and say something, we have a big audience out there tonight. So go ahead, come on and just tell us what you think. Tell us how you feel about everything you heard here tonight. We'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and do that. That would be great. Yeah, so you want to say something?
Hello, Rick.
Yes, go ahead, Kurt. Yes.
Hey, been a real good program. I've been meaning to tell you this for a while, but you remind me of a actor, Tom Wilkinson. Do you know who I'm talking about? If not, you could look him up.
No, I never.
But you look a lot like him.
Is that right?
About the same age.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah. I don't know him. Is he a good-looking guy? Or what?
Yeah, he's very handsome. I'll give you a heads up. You can look him up sometime.
Yeah.
I would like to say that I've been listening to Six Screens about 10 years. Richard Raleigh introduced me to Six Screens, and I'm pretty sick, so I can't talk very long. My health is really bad. I still think of you, picture you as a Jehovah's Witness overseer. I know that's quite offensive probably to you. I don't mean it to be. There's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that are very happy with the way the Watchtower operates, the history included. I could talk about that forever, but I won't. I just to state the obvious, there are many people that are happy. Many people have been hurt by the Watchtower. The blood transfusion issue probably is the one doctrine that they have
that I don't agree with. I don't interpret the scriptures that way. Also, child molestation is a huge problem in a worldwide organization. I think they could handle it better. This based on scripture that I could talk about. But nonetheless, in our world, I think it would be appropriate in any case like that to turn it over to the local authorities and have them do their investigation. But I like to hear the JW World News, what's going on, and enjoy the people's comments. But one example, and I'll shut up after I say this, one example of what's talked about quite a bit is mental control. And I think, I don't want to offend anybody, I think it's a little bit exaggerated. I know that mental control has been talked about in the world and been used in the world. But with the Watchtower, I never got the impression, of course, it may have went over my head, but I never got the impression it was any kind of mental control. I'll give an example. They set themselves apart from Babylon the Great in different ways. One is the use of the divine name. We could argue there's at least 6 ways in the Hebrew language to try to figure out YHWH, but that enough said about that. But the use of the name Jehovah, I'm satisfied with it. But that's one way that they set themselves apart. So when you read the publications, you're going to see it repeated to nauseam, 6 times on one page or something. But in their view, I don't have to tell you, you know better than I do, their view, that's God Almighty and Christ is his son. So mind control is the point I want to make. I'm not saying it's not possible that there's mind control used from the headquarters down. I'm not saying that. But I would find it very difficult to make a case that would prove beyond any reasonable doubt that they use mind control. I won't just pick that out. I've heard it mentioned many times, and I'll just playing devil's advocate here, not to make anybody mad. But anyway, I thought I'd speak to you before you got off the call. And thank you for taking my call. And I'm about wore out, so I'm going to go back to mute. And thank you, Rick, for the program. Bye.
Well,
Bye.
you're very welcome. Thank you, Kurt, for checking in with us. But yeah, we can call it mind control, or we can call it brainwashing. But well, whatever it is, they have some technique. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us.
Yeah, the caller made a couple of interesting points, but I would strongly disagree with him. The Watchtower has been known for backmasking, for subliminal stuff, for a lot of mind games, and they've been playing this for years. That's why they got everybody in a stupor. And I just want the audience to know that Six Screens is doing a phenomenal job at pointing out, all the trickery that they've been doing for so many years. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you, Dick. Well, no, that's something, and I can understand. Go ahead.
Can I?
Go. Yeah, make it quick. Make it quick, Debbie. Yep.
Okay, Kurt. I don't know if you've ever done biofeedback or not, but you learn to control your brain waves, and you can literally control a game like Pac-Man on the screen. And I did it for like 3 years to try to help me cope with my pain. And I was very, very sick for a while. Well, I'm not well now, but I'm trying to get well. But I've been trying to do that for 61 years. And that's how old I am. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that you can even control your own brain waves. And I'm like, when I was doing it, I was like, how in the heck am I doing this? But I was, So there are subliminal ways that we don't even understand about our own brain, and how things work. I mean, it's just amazing. We have this amazing brain that we use, 9 or 10% of. So just imagine how much more there is to learn. And I mean, some people can really be put under hypnosis.
Well, right. That's a form. Well, that's a form of.
Don't remember it.
There's a whole lot of form.
Anyway,
Okay. There's a whole. Thank you, Debbie. There's a whole lot of forms of mind control. It's hypnosis. They can use all types of ways of doing it. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make a fast comment, Rick. They controlled us with the fear of Armageddon. That's plain and simple there.
Well, I mean, that could, I don't know if that comes under mind control, but it certainly makes you want to be in favor of being in an organization that is going to save you. But, all these.
Well, you fear death.
Yeah, well, probably all of these little things put together. But, they have got ways of doing that. And Debbie was saying, we can't even figure it out. We can't. It's a very, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
I know you're getting ready for your next program. So this is Carrie. I just wanted to say this, that about mind control. It starts with the Bible study. It's a process. And this is how they work it. It's a process. It's a slow process. And, and most people who are studying, they're hungry for the Word of God. So, and everything makes sense after a while because they use their Bible, their interpretation, and it's simply that way. And after a while, you are controlled. There's some people that have very strong mind and they question, but there are many of us that never questioned. We accepted, we believed, and that's the way it was. So until something happens in their life, and that's when they start questioning after. But there was a lot of hurt in between. And so, but it is a process. And they're very good at it.
I have some great news.
Who's this?
Hello. Hi, Rick, this is Mary.
Yes.
I have some awesome news to share. And oh my goodness, yes. So if you want to get your friends and family out of the Watchtower, the thing to do is to live your best life. So this week, about 4 days ago, I had a puppy that I needed to get some things for in the puppy store. I was being watched in the parking lot by the presiding overseer's wife, who followed me into the puppy store, and she talked to me nonstop for about an hour and a half, and she was just staring at me as I was in absolute happiness picking out stuff for my puppy. And I took the opportunity to just talk to her like a human being, and she was befuddled at my happiness. We didn't talk about Jehovah. She didn't ask me to come to a meeting. She was so enthralled that I was not, how they call us demonized and this and that. My advice to anybody listening, and I think I mentioned 2 weeks ago that an elder came up to me and talked to me for 15 minutes. He even was trying to help me put my sweater on right. And I knew him and his wife. And I mean, we have history here. Yeah, they're actually talking to me like, what's with this girl who we've marked, who we've hated upon? It's been now. Oh, yeah. You know what, everybody? I know we got to complain. I know we got to vent and all this stuff, but I'm telling you, make new friends, learn a new sport, anything it is that you want to do. Get into a club, find something that you enjoy. and make new friends in your community. I guarantee you the witnesses, and don't complain about the, you can always lead them to the show to listen to, but I'm telling you, the way to draw them is to show them that you're happy without them. No, you got to do it alone. It's taken me about 11 years now. I got new friends, and these Jehovah's Witnesses that I see every day. Jehovah's Witness Hall is right up the street from me. They live all around me. And for years, they were, you guys know what they did. Some of them even ran for me when they saw me in the post office. Like, really? So, I mean, it was very hurtful. And I went through a lot of things myself, and illness and all that stuff. All right. Hi, everybody. Loved everybody. Sorry, but I just had to say that.
All right. Well, thank you, Mary, for coming in and talking to us tonight. We always appreciate hearing from you. We're still waiting for Gail coming in from Houston, Texas. I don't see her on our feed here yet, so we'll keep the program going a little longer. And I'm not sure. Well, we have Gail coming in now, so I guess we can probably start our program. But friends, I just wanted to say a few things here tonight before we do leave the program. I want to thank everyone for coming in. We had a great night of activity here tonight. Lots of people calling in. And it's showing us that more and more people are leaving the Watchtower. We really appreciate your presence here on the 6 screens. And also, I want to let you know there'll be no Sunday program tomorrow. It's every other Sunday. So no Sunday 6 screens. That's the day we take on a more spiritual feel. So we're going to come back next week. We have some new programs coming up Sunday next week. So let's look forward to that. We're really, really putting forth an effort to really put the word out and get as many people listening in as we can. I wanted to say, too, that, if you like what you see here on YouTube, and we have so many people commenting, hundreds and hundreds of comments. I think there's like 700 comments tonight, 500 to 700. So why don't you do this? Why don't you like us on YouTube and even subscribe if you're not? And that'll get more and more witnesses to be able to listen in. So go ahead and give that a shot. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And if you're on Facebook, go ahead and share this tonight. That really, if you really enjoyed the program tonight, share it with your Facebook friends and get it out there so more and more people can see what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, we have a Gail coming in from Houston, Texas with her After the Storm program. So we're looking very forward to that. So she'll be coming on here momentarily. So I want to thank everyone again. And may I say, the last one leaving the Watchtower, by all means, turn off the new light. We're going to go to After the Storm with Gail. So let me disconnect this program here right now. We'll go to our feed. Okay, let's end this broadcast, which we're doing.